Good evening, everybody. Well, welcome to the town board meeting on this rather chilly evening. Thank you for showing up. I'll call this meeting to order, and our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have approval of agenda. I would like to suggest that we move, we have guests with us tonight from the DNR, and I'd like to move them up right after the treasurer's report, so you gentlemen don't have to sit here any longer than you have to. So I would make that recommendation that 7A goes into position, make that 4A. And then we also have the appointment to the the planning committee. We have planning commission. We have two vacancies there, and we will put that down on as 7E, or 7. Yeah, or D1, however you want to put it. Anybody else? If not, motion would be in order to approve the agenda as presented here.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second that. All in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Aye.
Cronin, aye.
Clerk's report.
Minutes from November 14th, 2024. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. at Moose Lake Community Center by Chairman Alan Overland. The meeting opened with the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisors present: Alan Overland, Heidi Cronin, Tony Bakhtiari, Clerk Walcher, Zoning Administrator Scott Beckman, Road Manager Vern Anderson, Coordinator Stampahar via telephone Paula Engstrom, Recorder Amy Prine. Approval of agenda. Changes to the agenda. New business 7B moved. Add septic to old business A. Motion Bakhtiari, second by Cronin. Motion carried. Clerk's report. October 10th, 2024 board meeting minutes were read by Clerk Walcher. Minor corrections made. Motion by Bakhtiari to approve the October minutes with corrections, second by Cronin. Walcher announced Paula Engstrom will replace Becky Haas as deputy clerk. Motion by Cronin to approve Paula Engstrom's attendance for the MAT training session on 11/18/24 with pay and mileage, seconded by Bakhtiari. Motion carried. Motion by Cronin to invoice Kaminsky for 6 months of rent from May to November 2024 for the lease on the Township Hall, on the Town Hall shop, seconded by Overland. Motion carried. Treasurer's report. Overland reviewed the financial reports. The total cash balance as of October 31st, 2024 was $399,981.08. Motion by Bakhtiari to approve the treasurer's report, second by Cronin. Motion carried. The detailed financial reports are posted on the Township website. Public input. John Menke commented. Old business, septic and land application of sewage. Motion by Bakhtiari to rescind the approval of the above-ground sewage disposal that was approved in October. Motion failed due to lack of second. New business, zoning map amendment. Motion by Bakhtiari to approve the rezoning of parcel 33.05554.001 on Warbler Lane, owned by Cunningham USO, from Forest Management District to R2 Residential Rural, seconded by Cronin. Motion carried. Amendment to Shoreland Ordinance tabled. DNR Sturgeon Island Bridge fill removal. Motion by Overland to remain in contact with the Minnesota DNR and explore options to not remove the portion of land filled in by the Sturgeon Island Bridge, seconded by Bakhtiari. Overland aye, Bakhtiari aye, Cronin abstain. Motion carried. RPN update and process for solution. See new business 7C. Discussion of reserve fund. Motion by Overland to set the reserve fund at $400,000, seconded by Bakhtiari. Motion carried. Discussion of electronic files system and schedule transfer to cloud. Walter will discuss with Matt attorney what can and cannot be stored on the cloud. Clarify records retention policy. Stampahar will contact Matt to obtain direction and present results at the December meeting. December partial audit. Motion by Overland to have the supervisors, treasurer, and clerk meet for a partial audit on December 12, 2024 at 6 p.m. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Motion carried. Board of Adjustments Planning Commission ad discussion. Motion by Cronin to advertise for 2 weeks in the Star Gazette and Evergreen for the 2 open positions on the Planning Commission. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Motion carried. Building permit issue, minor subdivision issue, Benzie Coil. Motion by Overland to direct the zoning department contact an appropriate attorney to proceed with any action required on the recent Benzie Coil subdivision after obtaining the proper interpretation of the related zoning ordinance. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Overland, aye. Bakhtiari, aye. Cronin, no. Motion carried. Board of Supervisors, other. Cronin suggested Mr. Curry coming up to meet with the board for a training session. Cronin requested the monthly financial reports to be posted on the website. Stampahar will follow up. Road update. Road manager Anderson reported on the completed and pending road work. The report will be posted on the Township website. Anderson reported there will be expenses for removal of an abandoned, burned-out trailer on Pioneer Road. Once final invoices are received, Anderson recommended the board invoice the owner. Zoning update. Zoning Administrator Beckman reported 4 permits and working on 4 new residential permits for the year. Planning Commission update, no report. Fire District update. Bakhtiari reported 8 calls, 1 motor vehicle with injury, 5 medical, 1 camper fire, 1 cancel call. Motion by Bakhtiari to renew the Moose Lake Area Fire District contract for 1 year. Seconded by Cronin. Motion carried. Review claims. Claims for $72,234.06. Motion by Bakhtiari to approve the claims as listed. Seconded by Cronin. Motion carried. Open mail and review. Letter received from the Moose Lake Post Prom Committee seeking donations. Motion by Bakhtiari to adjourn meeting at 8:25. Seconded by Cronin. Motion carried.
All right, you've heard the minutes. Any corrections or additions? Other than probably the word "to" should have been added in there, minor correction. Other than that, move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Cronin, aye.
Very good. Treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm delighted to be reporting tonight in my last report as treasurer. I'm looking forward to the transition over to our new clerk treasurer. Got a few reports to share with you very briefly, and then one that will take some time to review.
After you get it done.
Oh,
You'll just have to talk through it. Sorry.
I can bring
Still trying to figure it out.
I can bring it up. Well, I'm looking for that. So you can pass those one for everybody. This is a trip down memory lane. The first, you hearing me okay on the system here? I got it here, I think. The first sheet, that's a 2014 report, annual report. I thought that'd be a fun trip down memory lane. We've come a long way, folks, in terms of the accounting system since my predecessor Ron took over and I took over from him using the same systems. Kind of interesting. That's just more amusement than anything, probably. Next item coming down, I'll ask Cindy to pass the financial activity. And the financial activity is nothing more or less, it's almost a useless report because nothing much to say except that's what you approved last month. So there's enough there to pass on to at least to the board members. Next item of business is the January through November. I think I'll have some other copies. Could you give those to the 3 board members? No, I'll give you mine when I'm done. There's one for you, Heidi, and one for Al, and one for Tony. I want to make a few comments on the year-to-date budget versus actual. You may recall that we're looking at January through November, and this is the total of expenses that will be posted in 2024. So when you look at January through November to the budget, this is our expense budget. We won't be posting, anything else in terms of.
Oh, are you on this?
Yeah, you can go back to that.
Oh, sorry.
Just go.
Okay.
Yeah, stay there. I'll come back to that. So as you can see, your budgeting was terrific in many, many areas. I'm going to just mention a few of the major areas. I'm not going to nitpick anything, but Ron led you through a budget process, and you budgeted $400,000 for general property tax revenue. You got $401,000 and some dollars. Really good. You budgeted local government aid at $42,000. We got $45,000 in gas tax alone. A few thousand other small amounts. You budgeted total intergovernment revenues of $323,000, and we got just over $324,000. Thank you for your work on that. A downfall: short-term vacation rentals. Planning Commission, hey, must be talked to, I guess, huh? We budgeted $27,000, and we've yet to implement the short-term vacation rental permit process, so that's coming soon, we hope. Zoning did extremely well, budgeted $9,000, collected more than $17,000. Interest earnings was also good, budgeted $22,000, we got $25,000. A couple of other areas just to mention that the public may be interested in too. You've had this document, so it may not matter too much from you. The budget for the board was $20,000, you spent $17,000. Now, I should be commenting congratulations, but of course I'm not, because I think there's excessive compensation. But don't let that bother you. Elections were over. It'd be nothing new either. So, and then last couple of things. The fire, you'll notice, is $135,000. We budgeted $45,100. The reason for that is the fire district didn't bill us but once in 2023. So in 2024, it came through with a $45,000 bill in January, and then that was for 2023, second half of 2023. Then we had another $90,000. So you can see that happens. So, and then otherwise, well, as you've looked hard at all the claims on Public Works. Public Works, $503,000, way over budget. You apparently cut the road department loose on dozens of projects that some of which needed to be addressed for some time. So that's about what I have to say about that. Unless you have any questions, you can save those for the end if you want. And then the next document is the financial activity comparison January through November. And if you want to compare this document to last year, you can do that. Will you pass those to the board members? Cindy, that one's for you. Okay. Now, let's go to my PowerPoint, and then I'll go to my final report. So next slide, Paul, thank you. Oh, this is my favorite slide. I had put it in because I've been showing you this for 6 months. So why wouldn't I have a last hurrah with what is your job? One, and it has to be planning and allocating for what you're going to spend money on, and then budgeting for it. And the next item. Here's a review. This is primarily for our audience and for people listening. Cash on hand on November 30th from our financial statement, which I'll be showing you in a minute, $500,248. And when we pay the claims tonight, it'll be down to $469,128. The approved levy for 2025 and other income anticipated, the levy is $400,000, and the other income, of course, would be the interest income, zoning, and gas tax refund. So the cash at the beginning of 2025 would be $944,000. You've set a reserve fund. I should have crossed out suggested because you've adopted that. We got to figure out how to implement it, and we'll be talking about that for a little bit. So if you take off the reserve fund, what's left for 2025 would be 544,000. Okay, next item of business. I want to pass out the balance sheet. Oh, here. I just love this chart too because, and the public should be interested in it too because it's a 14-year history of levies. And levies are really, it's intrigued me. In the 6 years as deputy treasurer and now for the last 9 months in this job, I made it a particular interest of mine to look at not only what the levies are, but what the revenues are in total, and then where it comes from. And it's a fascinating study to look at, who is footing the bill. And there's much to be gleaned from learning, how we know how much we collect, but how do we collect it? Where does it come from in terms of the 36 sections that exist in our township? Which areas are most taxed? And then which part of the tax comes from the various categories? Residential, seasonal, agriculture, and so forth. I'm doing a study which I haven't completed yet, but I'm anticipating about 65% of the money that comes in to our coffers comes from seasonal. And it's getting higher, of course, because they're building more homes. And not that many people are becoming residents. They're keeping those seasonal homes. And let's see, last item, is that it? That's it, okay.
What percentage did you say?
I think about 65%.
65%.
If you have a small cabin, let's say a 3-season cabin on a small lot, maybe 900 square feet, no garage, your taxes might be $3,000. And of that, the township might get $500 of it. That's more than average. I mean, some nice homes are charged $10, So it takes a lot of those nice, very small homes to add up to one cabin that pays a total of $3,000 and $500 goes to the township. Usually it's about 20% of the tax bill. I think I have enough of these to go to the front table. And this is my final report. And I think it's a gift. I think it's I worked on this to contribute a little talk about the balance sheet by fund, the classifications, and then to make sure we're all on the same page. I often think about financial reporting should be comprehensive, it should be complete, but it also should be digestible. Because if it's not digestible by the people that are making the decisions, it's not doing much good. So how can you do this? Well, if you can pack a lot of information, a lot of decision making, a lot of fact finding on one page, it's pretty hard to have anybody on the wrong page. So let's take a look at this. I've got four areas of this. First, at the top, that's the typical balance sheet by fund. This is a system that makes the Treasury and the Treasurer's work, and to a certain extent the clerk's work as well, very complicated. Because these are all funds that don't get put into a separate account. So there's revenue funds, road and bridge funds, and capital improvement funds that are all part of our account at First National Bank, all 3 accounts at First National Bank. But right now, $500,248.15 in the Treasury as of the end of November. So now to classify that, this is just a November report now before we turn the page. Cash on hand, as we said, $500,248. December 12th claims, $31,030 that I presume you'll be signing off on tonight. And if you take off the reserves, that means you have net cash available of $69,000. So you can see that reserve fund, as you indicated in your decision on this and have been thinking about it for some time, is important to have an emergency fund. The question remains now to think about how exactly to implement this fund? Should it be set aside so there's no accident spending out of that fund? Or is it just a fund that's there in case it's needed? In case cash is needed. Right now, because there's such a shortage, it's needed, obviously. So let's go to the next section. That's reserves. Now when we talk about reserves, the 400,000, I've sent you some reports in the past where I recognize it's a little confusing. Some people have been confused because I input the 400,000 into cash and then I take it away a couple different times. It makes complete sense from an accounting standpoint, but it's difficult to follow. So we're going to make it simple now. We're going to start at this financial forecast summary. That's a third of the way down the page. Reserves will be shown at the end of this report coming up. So we won't be thinking about that for now. Cash on hand, 500,248. December expenses, 31,000. So we got 469,000. That includes the reserves. Now let's focus now on the future forecast. And if you would please stay with me and keep your focus on the 2025 column. A few months ago, I reduced 210 lines of our accounting system, which is important and mandated, and you're going to need that for budgeting purposes when you get down to the brass tacks. But I reduced it to just, how many lines was it? Be 6, 8 different lines, and then each one had detail in it, or many of them had details in it. So tonight, I'm giving you a report, and I'm giving you a super summary. I have a budget, and I have my perspective, but I don't know how important that is unless you beg me to set your budget, which I doubt that you're going to do. So I'm just going to give you a super summary based on the perspective of the treasurer and my experience with your spending and revenues. So line 1 under future forecast, estimated beginning of the year cash balance including reserves, 469,000. I'll just go with the big number, okay? The levy is 400,000. That was set last March. That's why we have to look often at a biennium, because the levy for 2025 is set in 2024 and so forth. So don't confuse when you see 400,000, don't confuse that with your reserves. There's our 2025 levy. Now I previously said I've listed revenue on one line. This time I've broken it out. Line 3 is interest income, zoning fees, and sometimes we get some additional money from the state. It's hard to figure out why they're sending us $2,000 for this or that. But, so I put that in that category. It's about $75,000. And that's an estimate. The estimated total cash then, including reserves, $944,000 for 2025. Now, what happens from there? Estimated expenses, first draft. You have to start somewhere, and your treasurer has always blessed you with some kind of a starting point. It's all up to you. Obviously, there's only 3 votes, so Heidi, Al, and Tony, it's your deal. But just to show you where you're at and give the public some idea in this disclosure reporting, the clerk, treasurer, zoning, roads, salaries, all that, $85,000. I have included in that, from my perspective, the possibility of about $40,000 being towards a coordinator employee or something like that. So it could be $45,000 or it could be $85,000. So you can make a note of that. The fire contract is $90,000. Office operation, that's to have the office and the internet and all the small things that are under the, formally, what you see on the chart of accounts, the clerk's expenses. It has nothing to do with the clerk, it has to do with the operation, IT, equipment, all of that, a mere $20,000. Elections in 2025, we have 0. Ads and posting, we have $750. I'll make a brief comment there and say, I would suggest you watch that, carefully, and in this digital age, really reconsider how much needs to be published. I've had many people say, if you publish it in the paper, I certainly won't find it. So is the question of how much of that needs to be done. The Pine County assessor, I have 12,000. We've heard, there's rumor out there in the street that the assessor is gonna stop charging us so much money to send out the levies and collect the money, which I'll mention again later. And then legal, I put in, this again, treasurer perspective, $5,000. You might put in 10, you might put in 20, I don't know what you might put in, but I would hope $5,000. Many townships, I want to assure you, I've noted at many of the meetings I've been to that they're more complicated than we are. They're bigger than we are. Have more assessed values, more taxes, and their total cost for legal is $1,000 a year, you know. Essentially, there's a book, you know, this pink book that everyone has, and most of the answers that you're going to get from legal are in that book. Public Works. I love this statement, Public Works. It's everything we do. And primarily, many would argue, this is what we're here for. Roads, bridges, culverts, all of that. So I've got $522,525 down, and that is more than an educated guess for, I want to read you some of that. I didn't provide copies of this because, like I say, this is just my perspective, so I don't know how valuable it is to you. You can tell me or not. Oops. Okay. I'll go to 2025, and I'll give you a short, again, a summarized list of public works. That's the difficult thing about being the board of a township, you know, is public works. It's not direct to consumer, you know. There's no one single consumer that can look at, you know, what we spend on works and say, oh, that was really good for me, you know, or me only. We're in this together. It's a group thing. It's a community thing. So I have 35,000 on snow plowing, 40,000 on grading, ditch clearing at 10,000, anti-dust at 40, road improvement fund 175,000. I've repeated that. Again, this is a super summary, but if you don't have the sunk cost worked into the budget for $175,000 a year, being ready for future asphalt repairs, then some of these asphalt roads are going to have to turn into being gravel roads again. And then gravel hauling is 25,000, right-of-way clearing is 7,500, signage is 45,000. This is about more than 5 years past due, and the signage project is underway and posts being already purchased, and the rest of the signage scheduled for later this spring. Culverts, it could be another 25,000 or it could be closer to zero. So there's some fudge factor here. The box culverts for Island Lake, Birchview, and Brant Road are $20,000 each, our expense. But when it's paid for, when it's done, because we get state aid for this. State aid, is that what it is, Vern?
Road and Bridge Fund.
Road and Bridge Fund.
Yep.
It's probably closer to $600,000 or $700,000. So talk about a celebration there. We're getting the box culverts that are needed on Island Lake, Birchview, and Brant next year, but it's a big dent in our budget at $60,000, even though Road and Bridge Fund state aid.
That is supposed to happen this week?
Well, no, it just putting this in the budget to plan for it.
Right.
Two of them were supposed to happen 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that hasn't, and I got a message today from the county that they will know what type of funds are available in February, so.
Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Good enough. And then gravel crushing, 50,000, and I put in a miscellaneous account of $10,000. So going back to your sheet now, that adds up to $522,000. So, you know, what adjustments you make? You might add something and say it's going to be 575, or you could take some away and say it's going to be, you know, 425. But it's a number to plug in. So what happens then? If you start at 944,000 at the top of that, towards the top of the column, line 4, and you take out a total of 736,000 in expenses, total expenses, at the end of the year you have $208,000 total. That's total, that's money. The reserves weren't taken off at the top. So if you take off the reserves, you can see what happens. You're down 191,000 in the red. So now let's take a look at this. What do you do about it? Adjust these numbers. It's absolutely urgent for town board in December and January, well before your final decision on the levy, to have long discussions, getting your hands on and arms around the entire financial of the township. If that's not done, things that happen that are not good. So let's take a look at a forecast. So we're going to take the line 15, $208,102. We're going to move that up to January of 2026. So starting on line 1 of January 2026, the middle column there, that includes all the money you have. This has nothing to do with the reserve fund is in there, what's left of it. If the levy was $752,000 and interest income $752,649, and the interest income zoning was $75,000, you would have $1,035,751 to work with. Now, in looking at the expenses then, I'm showing a total of $635,000. So less. Well, one thing, if you get all those bridges done, you know, Public Works will go down to 422 and you don't have to crush gravel again, so you know you could be saving 100,000 there. I did give you an increase in pay. When you see the detail on this, you'll have to take a double take. You'll see you get a pretty big cut in pay next year because you don't have enough money, and we need it for Public Works. So I had to cut your salaries. But I give you an increase in 2026. I double your salary in 2026 if you get a levy passed. If you don't get a levy passed, you might get a cut below that. Of course, this is all unjust because there's not a lot I can do about it. Okay, so what happens? Estimated $635,000. Estimated end of year balance, $400,000. How did I figure that? Well, very simple. When you have Excel spreadsheet working, I just adjust line 2 to make sure that I get exactly $400,000 at the bottom. Okay, so this is a sweet spot, because when you take off your reserve fund, what you have is zero. Now, is that cool or what? No, let's not all get too excited at once. These are just numbers. Let's go to 2027, because you have to be looking down the road. So I'm taking the 400,000. Isn't that beautiful? That's the whole reserve fund. I'm taking that up to line 1 on 2027, and there I have 400,000. I'm going to collect another $752,649. That's arbitrary. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But let's say that's our levy, and then we have the interest income zoning and so forth, and you have $1,227,000 at the beginning of the year. And then I did some adjustments to thought what's reasonable and what could happen, some little increases and some decreases. Let's say expenses are $614,000 in 2027. Estimated end of the year balance including reserves would be $613,000. That would be wise too, I think most people would say. And you take off the reserves and there's $213,000 extra. So if you wanted to end up at a miraculous, beautiful number of 0, full 400,000 in reserves and then 0 money left over, you just take 213,000 off line 2. So there you have it. I hope it's complete as I can make it. I think it is, and certainly digestible. I'd be glad to answer your questions. Otherwise, just send you off on your merry way, taking care of our finances, and it'll be in the capable hands of our new clerk treasurer, Paula, to help you. Thank you.
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions, Tony?
So that's $752,649 just that you're pretty much suggesting for 2026. Isn't that what we had 7 years ago?
Yeah, well, the levy history is 700, it averaged 730,000 for 7 years, prior to the last 7 years that it's been exactly 400,000.
So we cut him in half 7 years ago. We
Something, close to,
Close,
yeah,
yeah.
close to
And
it.
we
yeah.
never
There was some adjustments in there, but an average is, I think the high was in the high 700s and the low might have been in the high 6s, so, but 730,000 was the average for 7 years.
Thank you.
And of course, that 2026 levy, just to remind you and the public, as they may not be keeping track of this stuff, the 2026 levy is set on the second Tuesday of March at the annual meeting by the electors that are present
This year.
this coming year, the next meeting. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Paul. Any other questions? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Cronin, aye.
All right.
Thank you. Say, Mr. Chairman, in
Yes.
preparation for the transition, I brought along a resolution that could be signed. So when we're doing claims and signing and so forth, if you look at the resolutions, and I think what I'll just ask you to do is pass a motion to allow the supervisors to sign the resolutions and the bank signature cards for an effective date of January 6th. That's when Paula takes over. And we
Very good.
need for her, of course, to be able to take charge of the bank accounts on time. Thank
All
you.
right. Yes, if you want to bring that up at the claims time, that would be great. All right, we have with us tonight Kelly Condiff and Darren Hoverson, is that correct? And we have a couple things going on. We have our Township shoreland ordinance that the Planning Commission has been working on, and then a little area of fill around the Sturgeon Island Bridge that has been discussed. We'll say it this time. Gentlemen, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and let you say what you'd like to say.
We can both, Darren Overson with the Minnesota DNR. And
Kelly Condiff, Area Hydro for Pine County, Minnesota DNR.
yes, we had an opportunity to introduce or reintroduce ourselves to a couple of you folks here at with Windemere Township. Myself again, I've met a few of you here the last couple of years with any different number of projects. One of the main things is introduce Kelly Condiff. He's our new area hydrologist here in Pine County, covering Pine County, and to be an asset to you guys for things such as water rules, road infrastructure, bridges, culverts, the such, ditches, planning and zoning, be it shoreline, floodplain, et cetera, et cetera. Kelly's great. He has many years working with local governments, working with townships. He can speak on some of this as well. I think we were great to be able to pick Kelly up as a hire, and he can and will be a great asset for Pine County as well as Windemere Township here. So that was generally the first thing we wanted to do to introduce with you guys. Kelly, you have anything to say on that?
No, I mean, I think it was day 2 or day 3 of the job is when I met Scott at the old Windemere Town Hall and Roger. Yeah, and Vern showed up too as well. So yeah, I mean, I've made talked with Brittany several times and working on the ordinance as well. So yeah, pleasure to be here. Actually, put faces and everybody's names.
Yeah, and I have asked Kelly to likely go to the next planning commission meeting as well, so
Right.
introducing himself to the planning commission, I believe is beginning of January sometime, as well as likely the next meeting here as well if need be. And if you guys ever have that opportunity, we think you need somebody from the DNR, we are here to attend. I mean, I've attended hundreds of these meetings with local governments, so. On the other matters, at least on the list here, we understand there's some need for clarification around a couple different items we've been working with Windemere Township the last couple of years, one being the shoreline ordinance, as well as a project there on the island on Sturgeon Lake. Which would you like to talk about first?
Why don't you go with shoreline?
Okay.
The planning commission just met Tuesday night, and I believe was working on that, is my understanding.
Okay.
There has, from the reports I get, there's been, I don't know that it's necessarily misunderstanding, miscommunication, just some clarification that needs to take place. From what I understand, the bulk of this came up from the lawsuit that happened over on the Sand Lake project. And there was a timeline that was set to some degree, but it was dependent, the township was somewhat dependent on the county. And there's been some confusion just in there as to, was the county done? Did we have a document to work off of? Et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
if you want to go ahead with,
And I can take it for Kelly here too. So there's definitely history here, right? The lawsuit, the settlement, I worked regularly with Dennis prior to Scott and such, right? And so at the time, there was a stipulation agreement signed and agreed to by the court for this township as well as the DNR with a deadline of October 23rd, 2023. We are past that deadline. The DNR is unable to extend the deadline to make, based upon that agreement, right? It was a request came to extend it for 60 days, right? We're not here to say that, the question about when it gets done is we expect you guys to do this, I guess, is where we're at.
Can I
right?
just interrupt for, did you mean 2024 or 2023?
2024, excuse me, 2024. So it's been a month and a half or so, say, right? And in that stipulation agreement, there was either an option in which Windemere Township could give the planning and zoning to Pine County. Boom, right? It would become Pine County's authority to administer planning and zoning around the lakes. Dennis gave us notice that this township and the planning commission agreed to not do that. Move forward with continued planning and zoning authority for the shoreline, and in such, the Pine County was in the process of amending their ordinance, which the township has to have an ordinance as restrictive as the counties, in this case Pine Counties. Pine County last summer fully amended their permit, and it has been approved by the DNR. They have a fully amended and approved ordinance in which Dennis and others since then drafted the ordinance to get a compliant ordinance. The DNR has submitted a conditional approval letter for this township to approve their ordinance, right? Often through the Planning Commission as a recommendation back to this board for approval, right? Each township can have a little bit different stipulations on how that does. At this point, we understand, as long as that ordinance has not changed, that it is ready for approval, regardless of Pine County considering future amendments, right? They have some suggested amendments which regularly happen with local governments, counties, cities, townships, to approve a new ordinance, or amendments to their ordinance. The Pine County amendments that we have reviewed thus far, one being a new classification for a district, is one that is unlikely to be allowed. This is a water-oriented commercial residential district that's been in question, right? This is not something that is likely to be allowed in Pine County, and they're aware of that. We've been in communication with them. Regardless of how their current request from the DNR comes forward, we expect, and we have a stipulated agreement, that this township does approve that ordinance. In absence of it, it'd be a violation of that settlement agreement, and the DNR would need to go forward with action there. We don't want to, right? We're not here today to say that's where we're at, right? We're trying to find a resolution in the settlement to this multi-year endeavor at this point, right?
Yeah.
That's a little bit of the history that I hope it helps and helps clarify some points. We can go to the Planning Commission and provide that information there as well next month, and or provide it back to this group. But it is on recording, so we can, people can refer to that as well.
sure. So what I would like to do, we have two members of the, well, actually three members of the Planning Commission here tonight. And it has not been our intent or the intent of the Planning Commission, certainly as I understand it in any way, to try to delay or balk or try to make it difficult for the DNR. It is their intent to try to get a good and correct shoreland ordinance completed. That is their intent, and there has been some challenges, as I understand, and I'm going to let the members speak to this at that time, and they will better be able to detail this.
Okay. our chair of the planning commission isn't here tonight. I'm vice chair. Vern Anderson is a member of the planning commission, and behind me, Phil White. So first, I guess we'd say message sent, message received, and nothing terribly new about that. We understand it. If there's any, if we could, kind of defend our speed, it would be purely that we started this in January, and it was a difficult process along the way, many hours and many revisions, and we were, at some point, we had under no ability to urge Pine County to get it done, so we could then start from their completed ordinance. We just kept going, not knowing exactly where they're gonna end up, and since, we have to be at least as strict, in some cases, we have a few areas where we're more strict than they are. So it's a difficult, time-consuming process, but I think we're nearing the end. I don't think you'd have to send any more messages to the planning commission, as far as I can tell. I think we'll have this done at the next meeting, and the next board meeting, we'll have a ordinance prepared for the town board to approve. So I don't think that's a problem. If that's okay with you, it's good with us.
Right, I mean, there's the process, right? You guys
Yeah.
are moving towards completion of it, right? And that's
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
we're comfortable
Yeah.
with at this point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's
One
what we're
clarification.
here today, right? Is make
Good,
this
well,
clarification.
loud and clear, thank you. And sorry about the
So they do take time.
Yeah,
So
it
I'm
took a
sorry to
lot of
jump
time.
in. We definitely understand that in the process and multiple iterations and back and forth.
Yeah.
We do understand that. This
Yeah.
is complicated.
And the process is, complicated, because we couldn't just say, we're gonna do this ordinance, we had to comply with Pine County. So, the one thing that may be different from what you've stated, where our understanding, and that is that we have never been told, as far as I know, that the Pine County is 100% complete. I didn't know until you said it, that they've actually approved an ordinance.
Yes.
Last we heard, it was 95%. And we wondered, now, we're gonna get advice from you right now, but we wondered, should we be not presenting our final ordinance to the town board until Pine County is 100% complete? What say you?
So they completed
Oh, they did?
yeah, right? So in the process of the stipulation agreement was that Pine County was in the process of amending their ordinance. They did so, they completed it and got in final review. That's when we gave, I think it was Dennis at the time, Dennis notice that the Pine County had been approved to pass along to this board as well as your planning commission to make note that, there's this many days left until the October 23rd, 2024 deadline.
We
In
should-
that time period, then since then, they've said, maybe we should make some more changes, right?
Mm.
And so they have a compliant shoreline ordinance with the state of Minnesota. We've signed off on that. The final approval has my name on it, right? So in that case, that's where they're at. And we don't know where their current request is going to be final, but we've made comments back and forth to them. But to wait longer for that would be in conflict with the settlement agreement.
Gotcha.
But similarly, it's really common that these changes happen at local governments regularly. And townships are sometimes, I will say, even burdened by maybe a county making really regular changes to the shoreline section if they do so. So that communication with the planning and zoning administrator with the county is really
Gotcha.
important for townships that share that responsibility to update their ordinance in, shortly thereafter, a county may update theirs.
I don't know where your communication went, but the planning commission didn't get it, as far as I know. So we'd love to see that, but in the meantime, we take your word 100%. We hear you, message received, and we're gonna get this done, and we apologize for the delay.
It's right, there's been
Yeah.
some transition of administrators.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And so
yeah.
it's oftentimes that's who the contact will be, is the
Sure.
manager or myself will be with that administrator. But similarly, this is why I've asked Kelly to attend the next planning commission, to be familiar with those members. Be comfortable with calling Kelly if there's a question that may come about. Scott as well, that relationship, right? If there's questions, we're here to assist in the administration of the ordinance. But the administration of it is the responsibility of the township as well as the enforcement of it. But we're always here to help. Is there, clarification on where's the ordinary high, or there's this really strange situation? we've come across a lot of them that can help provide some guidance to the township. And to be honest, working with the public that may not, that are looking for that second opinion sometimes, right? It can really help you guys as well.
What was the date that Pine County's ordinance was approved by the DNR?
I'd have to go back and look.
Oh, we'd love to know that.
A pretty close date, it was in July.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they approved it, and we've been waiting since July.
Yeah, so, and one of the things, and Dennis isn't here he's not the administrator anymore. And so one of the things Dennis was doing up to that point was drafting that ordinance kind of in connection, right? In his communications with Nair prior to Kelly and myself, he was trying to put together a draft, as I understand it. I don't know what happened with the planning commission, but essentially that's kind of mute, right? I mean, at this point, you guys are moving forward, we have that information, and we can, this is where we want to be, is at this point.
Well, rest assured, Dennis was a part of it until the middle of May, or maybe the beginning of May. But since then, we've had a number of meetings, and we have worked with our attorney and advisors, and worked with, the documents that we've gotten from Pine County, and we've made a lot of upgrades to it, and I think we're working on like 17 suggestions in construction. Nothing that wouldn't comply with the requirements of the court order, but we're working on putting those 17 changes into the final ordinance. So it's a vastly improved every month, and including up until Tuesday night.
Yeah.
We didn't accomplish a lot Tuesday night, but we set a deadline of January.
So what I'll make
we're
sure
with
to
it.
do is, have you seen the DNR's conditional approval letter?
No.
The planning commission has not.
No.
We'll just have that.
Communications were forwarded.
It would have been forwarded to members of the board as well as the, so that's something we'll have to get to you. I mean, pretty
Yes.
clearly, if the planning commission and Scott haven't seen this, there's a conditional approval letter, right? That we reviewed the ordinance. So it didn't, I don't know where it went then. It would have been sent to the administrator and generally somebody on the board normally the chair. But we'll have to, have you folks seen it, the chair members?
Not good, no.
From whom?
It would have come from likely myself or as an email, it might have came from Dan Petrick. So I'd have to go back and look, right? I don't have it in front of me right now, so. So maybe there is some miscommunication here. We can clarify that for you folks.
Thank you.
And I'll find the email and the notice in which I believe it was sent, and we can get that clarified.
Then, quick question. Changes happen, amendments happen, and, it could be at the township level, it could be at the county level or state level. How do you make all of them to kind of jive together, and what is the process for that?
So there has been no changes at the state level since 1989 in the shoreline rules.
Okay.
There's a minimum standard for shoreline rules, and that was passed in the 89 package. The shoreline rules are actually a guide to developing local rules at the city, township, or county, right? So the rules themselves have no value other than making sure that the local government rules and the ordinances, what is the application? That's what you follow, is what is passed by that local government. If there's changes to be made, there's an amendment process that's really clear on our DNR webpage for local governments. We work with groups like the Association of Townships, Minnesota Townships, to clarify when changes are made to documents and guidance information, as well as counties and cities. And that information is all on our website.
Can I ask you, so was it the, it had a couple attachments that had the Windemere stipulated settlement, had the adopted Pine County ordinance, and then the Windemere, Windemere whatever ordinance schedule.
Yeah.
Would that have been it? You sent it in June.
So
and
there
it
would
was-
have been an email with a conditional approval letter after we had gone back and forth with a number of iterations of the ordinance.
In June?
This is the one I
Again,
have.
I'd have to go back and look, Scott,
Okay.
so.
Because at that point, you're probably communicating with somebody who's no longer an employee.
Right, I mean, that's normally why we copy the.
Well, I went
board.
to the zoning at Windemere Township, so. And then it went to all 3 board members.
What was the title of the document?
3 of them was the Windemere Ordinance Schedule PDF, the Pine County adopted, Shoreland Ordinance Schedule, Pine County Shoreland Ordinance adopted, and then the DSLR, DNR, Windemere Stipulated Settlement and Order.
Yeah, so we'll go back and, figure this information. And
Is that it? Is that what you're talking about,
No.
or is it a different document?
No, it's a different document.
Okay,
So, we'll go back, find this information again for you folks and get it.
sure.
So, right, I mean, some of the miscommunication, confusion, right, that's what we're doing. If the information isn't getting to the right people, it's getting sent the wrong emails, then we want to know that, right? Again, Kelly's your person, not me in the future, so we'll want to make sure we do that. But something we can overcome, right?
That email that you have there, Heidi, you were just talking, was that adopted Pine County ordinance?
It was,
It would have been, yeah.
back in June.
Yes.
So it wasn't July, it was June.
Yeah, that's when it was approved.
Right.
Very good. Vern, did you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah, so some clarification then, and appreciate you guys' time here tonight, but going back to an email with Kelly Schroeder, this was back on October 8th, and she received a note from Dan Petrick at the time,
Yep.
and Dan had concerns about this water-orientated commercial residential, WOCR,
Okay.
which we have that district in Windemere Township.
It's
Currently.
it may be the language with it, I'm unsure of what it is right now, but what that is, so when you guys submit your final version of the ordinance to the DNR, we will review it for compliance with the version in which was submitted to us for conditional review. In that conditional review letter, we say certain things that has to stay and can't change. If there's been changes made that don't meet the compliance, we would look at districts associated, such as residential, commercial. Do you know when that was added to your ordinance?
Well, it's been in our ordinance since, I believe, 2009.
So,
I mean, but there's more problems than that.
right, so I'd have to, today we're talking about where we're at. Those specific details they're gonna be missed from me right now until I
Okay.
would look closer into it. But Vern, if you have those questions, send them to Kelly and we will look into it. I think at this point, we gotta make sure, where's that conditional approval letter? What was the email that was sent? Get that information to you guys. And if there's something on our end we need to correct, we'll do so. And we will make a priority to do so.
So I guess where I'm going with this, in responding with our attorney and then Kelly again, we have a problem with this district because it's not defined by parcels. It's defined on an area of a map, okay? So there's an issue with that. And then the last email I got from Schroeder, which was on December 10th at 9:12, she said the DNR 100% will not approve the ordinance with that language in there, WOCR. They haven't done anything on their end, and they've been busy, and they plan to revisit this on January 23rd of next year.
You're saying the county plans to
The county, yes, the
Yep.
county plans on reviewing that, so we're kind of in issue with this WOCR right now. That's one of our biggest hangups.
So your prior ordinance that was submitted to the DNR and rate is what we reviewed for conditional approval, right? So.
I don't know that.
But this is where we've been at. The WOC residential commercial is a new addition to the Pine County ordinance, at least how they've changed it and or changed the definition or it's in the table.
Okay.
So there's been some modifications there. We are not expecting to approve that change in the Pine County ordinance. What we would do is look at how that applies to your ordinance currently or the ordinance in which you submit and or the one that we reviewed prior.
Yeah.
So as a conditional approval, we would have the version that was sent to us, and then from that version, we would review to make sure there wasn't changes to it that would occur that would now be in conflict with the statewide minimum standards. Or Pine County's version, excuse me.
Yeah, no, that makes a little bit of sense there. So now on advice from our council here, he gave us 19 suggestions. He said section 4.2.1 has eliminated the water WOCR zoning district. Concurrent with the adoption of this ordinance, the township will need to adopt a new zoning map to rezone these properties that are currently shown on the zoning map as being in that district. However, please note the township zoning must be consistent with the county zoning. If the county has zoned any properties in the shoreline area, the township will have to zone them the same as the county has them zoned, so the township is not inconsistent with the county. Township is not inconsistent with the county, excuse me. So we discovered an issue with this district where when it was implemented back in 2009, they didn't do it by parcel. They did it by an area. So you can't go and say PID 33.0011.000 is in the district. It's just painted on a map. So
It's an overlay district.
it's just an overlay, but the overlay spreads out into districts that may not be in this, or the parcels that are not in this particular district. So we as a township has had this problem and it just got discovered. And so our council is saying, don't move forward on this until you get that fixed, because you have to have your public hearings and your notices and all that stuff to resolve exactly where this district is. See what I'm saying?
I do, so, right, I mean, it's this idea of having multiple districts on an individual PID.
And we don't know that. We can't say for certain which PIDs are in this district. That's the problem.
Yeah, so it's not uncommon to have underlining primary zoning with the shoreline district on top of it,
Correct.
right? And then, so you may have a portion of the parcel that is not in the shoreline. You know, and so that wouldn't be regulated by the shoreline overlay or the shoreline section of the ordinance, but could be by the underlining primary zoning. So that's not uncommon. So it depends on what activity you're gonna partake on that property and where on that property, right? Step back and you're out of the shoreline zone at 1,000 feet or so. So I'd have to look into it a little bit more for you, Vern, to understand, but I can understand where you're coming for administrative simplicity, right? Some counties have gone to, or local governments have gone to identifying that entire parcel or parcels together, lots, and put a primary zone on them that included, say, the shoreline, even if it might have been outside of the zone or something like that, and added a water-oriented commercial or a R1 or R2. So if I could look into it a little bit more, we can definitely help clarify. So one thing Lisa would suggest after we will get tomorrow and get this information back to you folks is feel free, we would like to see your current ordinance, again, how you've amended it thus far, and, since then, as well as any of these questions that you have that may arise, such as what you're explaining right now.
Yeah.
So Vern, what did
But I
you?
think
Do you have that?
No, you can have that.
that, don't we have to approve this? Because it says refer back to the, this is what the judge ruled on, we had to have this.
Well, that's where we're at,
Yes.
is that we still believe that you need to approve them on ordinance, right? That meets at least the conditional approval of what we had put forth thus far, right? We will get that to you. We believe, because you are now past that stipulated agreement time, that it needs to be done, right?
Absolutely.
Aaron, we have a couple, we got a copy of it.
Thank you.
Would you like to have?
We can, but an electronic copy would be great too. You know, if
Yeah.
Scott has it or one of the planning commissions too, can send it to us. I mean, maybe for clarification, who's your chair, who we should be working with the planning commission?
Well,
The vice chair is
the
currently
chair
serving.
just will be completing her term this month now, so she will be done.
Okay,
Scott, would you be comfortable receiving these communications to forward?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. So at this time, probably the best would be to go to Scott. Scott can get it to the rest of the planning commission.
okay, and then Paula for the board?
Yes, I believe that would be
Okay,
good.
so we'll want to make a note of that, I guess.
So Darren, if I could add,
Shoot.
continuing on with Kelly Schroeder's message from the other day, she goes on to say, from what I understand, Mr. Lampert, who is DSLR in the agreement, stipulated agreement, owner of Sand Lake Resort, she goes on to say, from what she understands, Mr. Lampert's biggest concern is he believes that what is currently zoned as of so far, that the county doesn't have it, and they won't get it, and then he will be in a non-conforming use, and that district doesn't exist, and he can't make any changes to his property.
So a non-conforming use or designation in a district doesn't mean work can't be changed, but you can
It's a new
redo the work
process.
that's there,
It's a new process.
right? I mean, it's no different than a home that somebody wants to build, right? An existing use or an existing dwelling, legal non-conformity, right? They've been there, they were legally permitted at some time, the ordinance has changed. The, statute right now, is it 394? I think it might be different for townships, essentially allows you to reauthorize the same footprint, right, the same use. There is allowances to continue a use, but if you want to expand that use into a zone or a use that's no longer allowed, there's a process for it, a variance,
Right.
right? So, and that process lays out in your permit. So it's not that something can't be done, it needs to fit within your community's comprehensive plan, your ordinance, and it has to convince the planning commission and our board of adjustments, and at times a board, right, however the process is laid out in any individual government. But in this case, just because something's listed as a non-conforming use doesn't mean that there's nothing that can be done there.
I don't think that's the concern at this point. I'm not going to speak for Mr. Lampert, but he currently has a permit based on this WOCR for his project, okay? So he's saying if that goes away, how will that affect it?
That I wouldn't have an answer to right now.
I think that's why we're all struggling here on the commission especially,
Well-
and reading what Kelly Schroeder has said, because they're struggling with it too. Based on Dan Petrick said they're 100% against that district.
So it's currently listed as that district.
On a map within Windemere, it is.
Yeah, so that was part of the issue with the lawsuit, right?
That I can't answer, I was not involved in that.
Right, so there's a lot more history than just understanding what it was and what it is today. And I could go through that more so.
Sure.
But I'm just not gonna be able to just relay, I apologize. for
No,
at
and
this
that's
point,
fine, I think-
Kind of the intricacies of each of those arguments, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the DNR would not have been in this position if we did not think it was a significant deviation from the statewide minimum standards, right? We don't take going into a lawsuit situation with a local government lightly, end, period, right? So it was a significant deviation that's been, and process has taken many years now. And we're excited to overcome this, right? I hope you guys are too,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where we're at right now, why we're here today, to try to present, or to hear from you, get some clarification back, and find this process forward.
Very good. Phil, you had one along?
Yeah, I think, what I talked to Dan about today, and Kelly, spent 3 hours. What our next step is, as a township, is to get this shoreline management, which was required by the court, done and approved. And then that, but this Mark Lambert property for the, changing the zoning in that district, which is the overlay district, that would be our second priority tonight. But this has to be done because it was court ordered, and that's what Dan told me.
Correct, as long as it's the one that we conditionally approved. If you made significant changes to it.
Because at
Yes.
one time, I didn't see it, but I heard of this thing. And we got 32 conditions that we had to meet
Yes.
to be approved by the DNR. We went over that, and only 18 of them pertained to Windemere Township. So when we submitted it, it was approved by the DNR.
Conditionally approved, right? Because the final approval comes after
Yes.
adoption by the board.
And that was conditionally approved. So I think when you look at this, you probably look at the paperwork you
Yeah.
have, you're probably gonna find out that it did get approved somewhere, that conditionally approved. And then our next position is to get this in front of the board in the beginning of January, and then 2 days later at their board meeting. It can be put up for approval, and then we can move to step 2, but we can't wait anymore. According to Dan, we've waited past our date that the court allowed us to have.
You'd be correct, because we do not have the ability to give an extension, right? I mean, we just don't. That's not what, we can't give that to you today, even though it was requested.
So,
Right.
we're gonna get this done. I think everybody in this room agrees, and it'll be probably the middle of January.
Okay.
So
We're excited
good.
for that.
If we can keep some communication here on this and maybe get some of these questions clarified, but we'll certainly, sounds like we can get what is needed to you in January, and then if there are tweaks that need to be done after, you're saying that can be done.
Yes, I mean, or, right, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, there's
Right.
a little bit of details of that, but yeah.
Sure, exactly. All right, so the next is the Sturgeon Island project, or Sturgeon Island Bridge project. So lay out what you, where we are with that.
Wow. Nice bridge, by the way, we've been there a couple times now. Where we're at is where, when the DNR issued a permit for the bridge and that temporary fill and everything, there was a final plan that was presented to the DNR. DNR agreed, to it, and then upon the completion inspection of the final product, there's still additional fill that was not removed, that was in the plan, that the final plan that was signed by the DNR was supposed to be removed. That's where the big issue and hangup is the conditions of the permit were not met, and the final plan.
Right. So, I live right up above it. I've lived there my whole life. As a matter of fact, I remember it when it wasn't an island. I remember when that was all just land there. As I look at this, what I consider very small portion of land, one, it protects the road from water coming up and down and washing it. Secondly, it is a protection for the driving public. The other 3 corners all have land there, except for this one. If all that was removed, I'm almost thinking we would have to put up some kind of road barriers so somebody wouldn't go right into the water if they went off there, which doesn't seem great. The other thing was one more thing is the old bridge had balconies on it, and they were very, very popular to fish from. Right now, already this fall, I've seen a couple people fishing from just this little piece that sticks out. And they are far enough removed from the road so they don't have to fish from the road. People really enjoy that. Not everybody has access to own a lake lot. Some people don't have boats, but it is a place that they can come and fish from. I'm not sure, and Vern, I think you may have some pictures, but originally there was a power line pole there. And so I'm just not sure that there's really much. I know that's where they put the fill. I've checked on this project regularly, and the fill went there, but I don't know that part that's jutting out, I think there was land there all the time because that power line pole was there. And so I'm just looking at this from a very practical point of view, when starting as I did, where I remember the entire thing was land, and now we're talking about removing maybe a couple hundred square feet of land that's already nicely filled in with rock, and it seems that disturbing all that would cause more harm than good. So I'm just trying to get your perspective, because quite frankly, I don't get it.
Well, first of all, I mean, if that's is a question, that should have been originally put on the finalized plan, that you guys, that an enlargement or a protrusion or something like that was going to be left. When a finalized plan comes in from the engineer, the people that designed the bridge and the roadway and the temporary crossing, et cetera, and that's what the permit signed for, is those plans. If that was something that you had considered or talked about previously, or wanted that in the plan, that should have been submitted in the final plans for that project. As far as fishability for the public, we're not opposed to having you put a fishing pier or something there that the public can walk down the edge of the road and walk out and fish right from that area. That's not a problem. I mean, the fishing piers are very common all over the state, so that's
So, but the question still comes is there's really a nice safety factor they're having. Just, I mean, we're only talking a few feet. It's like the distance from you to me is all we're talking about
And
here.
if I can, Kelly, so, I permitted the project, right? So me and Vern talked about the project.
Yeah.
I want to say me and you talked about it, Alan. I talked to Dennis about it, the county engineer, Aaron, assistant county engineer, right? This request came up 4, maybe 5 times.
Mhm.
Can we leave the fill there? Can we put fill there to make a pad? Do we need this for safety? Road slopes.
Mm.
Do you need to put is the slope correct enough? Is it slow enough across that area? Would you put a guardrail there? All of that's been reviewed. The county engineer the engineers signed off on that project without that fill needing for road safety and or road integrity, right? So that fill was intentionally left after numerous times of being said, you cannot leave it there, right? As I was writing the permit, Windemere Township did not have a shoreline ordinance approved, right? And I in most cases, am not able to authorize that type of permit without that shoreline ordinance. But we waived it. I don't know if you remember this, Vern, right? So we had these conversations about that project and the need to get it done because the funding was there, right? You needed to get it done. And I said, okay, the last thing the state is gonna do is let you guys slip away the funds to get the project done. That made 0 sense, right? But into the last minute of, can we leave the roadway there, some portion of it? And the conversation was, no, you can't. And then it was, but you could apply for a get out more maybe fund and get a dock out there, right? You've seen our fishing piers, 8-foot wide tees, would work really well and probably have a nice reflection similar to with the bridge. We were out there today and it was great, right? It does seem like a small impact, right? Our difficulty is, we've said 4 or 5 times now. Last fall, we have a volunteer restoration order from Ryan Reed, again, to the township. Have you guys seen that? Right? So there is a voluntary restoration order. It is not a restoration order, but we had worked with, again, I'm gonna have to figure out who it was. If it was Dennis, those timelines are kind of a little sketchy to me again when that all happened. But it was informed that it needs to be removed even shortly thereafter before it became a grassed and riprap and all of that. That's part of where our difficulty is here, is it was said numerous times to not leave it there, to not put it there and then not leave it there. Yes, I've heard about the pole, I've heard about the history of the water levels lower and all of that. Where we run into is anytime that would be a prohibited filling in the public water because it creates upland. And there's a specific rule in state statute or state rules that prohibits filling for the purposes to create upland. That's why we allow docks, right? And so that's what we would have to overcome, is how do you not allow it? And that would have been the conversation. If the township, or excuse me, if the engineers had designed it and said it needs to be, say, 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 based upon the speed and or the safety concerns, those are legitimate reasons to allow filling of the public water. But to put an upland area for fishing is not. And that's where I've been on this, and it becomes very difficult for us to say, now that it's been there, we're gonna forgive you. Because what we think is that it's a small change to get it out of there. And it should have been done a year ago when the volunteer restoration, and it likely never should have, I don't know how it got left, right? The
Well, it wouldn't have
engineers-
been a year ago, because it was just done this summer, so,
The fill
yeah.
was done, again, I don't have it in front of me.
Vern, you must remember the dates.
It was sometime this spring that RPM came through, so.
Is it spring?
This spring.
Okay. And yes, it was RPM, so Ryan Reed responded back on that. So again, I apologize for my timing, I probably should have
Yeah.
printed out a few more things.
No, that's all right, that's all right.
That's where we're at on it, board, folks on the board here. I don't know how we can permit it, because it's a prohibited action from the state right now. So we're saying that it needs to be removed.
Can I add something?
Go ahead, Vern.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to do two things, go through this slide here at some point, but J.J. Walton, our county commissioner, would you be willing to come and give your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
If you could approach the podium, that'd be great. Thank you.
Just for clarification, JJ has a little more direct connection than just county commissioner because, well, JJ, I'll let you explain.
Would you like us to stay up here at this moment?
Sure, absolutely. Unless you're tired of standing.
No, we're good.
Thanks for having me tonight. I signed up to speak at the public forum. I was going to touch on this. I also newly re-elected, second term, so I'd like to thank everybody for their support. I was also on our soil and water for 2 terms, 8 years there. There's a lot of other things that I think jump out at me at this. I would say like the de minimis exemptions, which are, I believe, up to 400 square feet that are allowed in certain cases. I'll just ramble on and you can correct me with everything I'm saying here. So there's that de minimis exemption. There's also a lot of past practices I think that should be looked at. This is not the only bridge in our county. It's the only one of that kind. It's very unique. It's been featured in everybody's, a lot of locals, graduation photos, wedding photos. I mean, in the right filter at the camera, it almost looks like a Norman Rockwell when you get kids fishing there. So we have 161 other bridges that are a lot of similar, over a water feature. The sloping, like you said, it's designed by an engineer. We're also working as a board at the county. I've had private discussions with different board members for some more funding to help with this for the area. It never had a pier or a floating dock out there. Never had that. It had these nice decks off the side. I also can tell you some of the first fish I ever caught was off of this. And the person that actually was very instrumental in building this bridge and creating that was my father, was the one that did this. It brings a lot of people to our area. The safety of the kids, safety of anybody. You could just be a kid at heart, and I'm sure you still want to stand next to this thing, or possibly stand up where we used to. I think we're going backwards by not having something there. I think it would make the community whole again if we could get a place to fish, for kids, for anybody. I'm hopeful we could probably get something agreed with between even the county. I mean, you brought up a very good point. You say you can only give approval for for what you said, but if it was for the road or for the safety or the sloping, maybe we can, sit down with our county engineer and see if he can help at all with this. I would just as soon see the money go towards maintaining what's there now. It's just my opinion. We have to act as a board and work with our county engineer. You look around the lake, there's been a lot of other activities with riprap and such around there. I believe I'm under the understanding if you have 400 feet of lake shore, you can pull cattails and work on 50 feet of it. Does that make any sense? Have you heard that?
With a permit.
Okay, with a permit. Oh, okay. And I understand totally the whole reason for this is for clean water, take care of the environment, take care of the animals, the fish. I know the fish or the frogs or the tadpoles aren't concerned with the actual paperwork or the language. I understand that. Just hopeful, we can make this work somehow. And like I said, we have a lot, money available for parks and such. I'm currently working with the board to help with this. Myself personally, I would like to see it more of earth and not just a plastic floating fishing pier. Where are the fishing piers made?
The DNR fishing piers are made, I believe, with the Minnesota prison system. They're all wood.
Okay, all
They're
right.
the 8-foot T. They got a side rail on them.
Good. That's, I guess that's right now my take on it. I thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I'm available for any comments or questions later on.
Thanks, JJ,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So Alan, if I could, we got some time here just to, especially the public, some that maybe you've seen this, maybe haven't, and I think it'd be helpful for you guys to maybe take a look at some of this information. And so this is how it starts off here, Paula, if you wouldn't mind going to slide number 2. And here's a mission statement here from the DNR. And I'll just read it. It says, the mission of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources is to work with Minnesotans to conserve and manage the state's natural resources, to provide outdoor recreation opportunities, and to provide for commercial uses and natural resources in a way that creates a sustainable quality of life. And I think that's a good statement from the DNR. And so I wanted to share that with folks. So here, interesting enough, it's a little hard to see, but this is back in 1939. Somebody, and you can see the timestamp in the lower left corner there, October 6, 1939, where this was a peninsula. Alan, you have much better history than me on this, but we all know it used to be a farm.
They made hay up on that.
And it was a peninsula, so just fascinating as a reference point. The access would have been up there as noted. And it's very, very densely populated in 1939. So here we get to 66, looking at the area of land on that peninsula, and this was it was in 1965, where Jim Waldholm and his wife and another couple had purchased the island and developed it to what we currently see now. So here we're going to go back to April of 1991, and I just want to, the importance of showing the history of this area and how it's been and where it's gone over the years. So we're talking 33 years ago, I believe, and there was a huge amount of mass of land area in this particular area that's in subject right now where the bridge is. So, and here again. 2009, I'm just grabbing some historical photos here from online. Again, you can see the big jut out of where we're talking about, right now, and a little bit difficult to see on this photo, but the road is fairly clear and where the bridge sits. So here's off of Pine County Beacon. Everybody can look at this as well. This is 2011, and if you note up in that area where that particular, it'll show power pole here, but you can see how it had jogged way out into that area and had shown that area of land at that time in 2011. So Again, a little bit harder to see, but you can clearly see the road there and how much land area there was in April of 2011. So now you're zooming in here a little bit because you can see the high line, the power pole, where it was all land and where it currently is land, right now. And of course, the road is being as wide as it is. That was where people used to park and would then go to the bridge and walk on the piers and fish. So here's an illustration of where the current or where the previous pole was in the line, the amount of land area. Again, this is May of 2013, and you note all four corners, there's massive amounts of land, obviously, and keep in mind this was all created. Everything here was created by man. This was not naturally made, and it was all dredged out, and that island was turned into one from a peninsula. So just another view here in 2015. There's a huge bump out there where people parked, and that currently is still there. It just has changed with the effect of the asphalt and the curbing. So next one, please. So here, I'm going to show you this. You're wondering, why are you showing me this? Well, it just kind of gives you an idea what it looks like in 2012 going into the previous structures. So next slide, please. Now you can see where there's trees growing. That type of tree, deciduous tree, it grows on land and stuff, and there's the pole. That's been a discussion. This was all grass down there, lower water level in 2012, but you can kind of see how it has been for years in this area, 12 years ago. So there's another shot. Road's a little bit wider there. This is after the asphalt was put in 2007, and that's what it is. So just another angle showing you perspective here. And some of the challenges we had with this previous structure and the bridge was it wasn't so much the bridge itself or the cover, it was the bridge. The approaches were settling and failing from all the water that was coming into there and stuff. So again, another wider shot. This is getting back towards the green shed here off to my back off to the right. You can see the massive amount of land area here, how the road jogs out in towards the lake. And like I said, has a lot of history of being that way. So again, another lengthy shot of that, and even more land area. Where that asphalt kind of goes out right there is kind of where the current culvert is and stuff, right in that particular area underneath the road, so in catch basins. Just another angle here. So now we have current. And this was taken just a few days ago, and showing every property has riprap on it to protect their asset from the high water we had in 2019. This one down here on the lower right, hundreds and hundreds of yards of material hauled in to protect it when the lake was flooding. And in fact, it actually flooded our road right by this lower property right here on the right. Water was over the road and caused a lot of problems there. So next slide. A little different angle, just kind of showing you things, how it lays out there, the channel going up to the northeast. And again, that was all dredged out. That was all solid land in there back in the mid-60s. So kind of a close-up shot of the subject area we're talking about here, which is now neatly and correctly rip-wrapped, established roots system, and nothing leaching into the lake. It is well established. So you can keep going, Paula. Thank you. Just showing some different angles here. So keep going. All right. Now this is just an overlay of kind of how it used to be. There's the pole, because the pole, and everybody knows this, that's Tony's shed back there. That attaches to that pole, and it goes across the road to the one down on the bottom here. Literally in the exact same spot of where it is, even though the position of the road and the angle of the bridge, along with the elevation, has changed. And mind you, the elevation got dropped so low that it's no more navigable to go underneath there with the boat like it used to be back in the day. We used to take pontoons and boats. JJ can attest to this with his family. So that got taken away from Windemere Township and Sturgeon Lake with this project here. They lowered that, but with that they also changed the angle of it and where the road is set up, and that changed just a little bit there on the land side. So go ahead. No, you're fine. Yeah, just a little more perspective. So now you're kind of looking straight at the entrance here. Again, It's deceiving because of how the road has changed a little bit, and I have the plan here on how it used to be, with the engineer's plan and stuff, and they even show this little jog out there, and that's the way it is currently right now. And I would say it's about, next slide please. So, Kelly, you've seen some of this. The area in question was all land prior to '66, and it was a peninsula. Of course, we talked about being man-made, and that whole channel was dredged out and man-made as well. You know, seeing these historical photos, and it appears that we don't even know if there's any extra fill left there or not. I mean, it's very hard to determine if there is any or how much there is. How do you determine that at this point? And well, like I had mentioned before, the position and the elevation of the bridge has changed from the previous one. And the state, when we were in conversation with them about these piers, it wasn't going to work because of the access to them. So that's why it would also, at this point, double as an area for safety and allowing people to fish from it. So, and the biggest factor is it also gives us nice protection, like the other three corners, from the high water, because we experienced an issue there back in 2019. So.
All right, thank you, Vern. So as I'm looking at this, and I don't know what you saw, but I think what you were talking about was filling into the lake. And from what I saw from these photos, I'm not sure it was ever filled into the lake. It looks like it was more filled. Certainly there was some, as it was made to go across and do the channel, I get that. But from the pictures, it more appears that fill was going on top of existing land. That's part of my question. And yeah.
I mean, we would respectfully disagree, knowing that, yes, there was some form of, so that where the ordinary high is the jurisdictional boundary of where the lake is.
Sure.
Right? And where the ordinary high is likely in some of the area, during some of those photos where that vegetation was, right? So there's been you guys are well familiar where the ordinary high is and higher because of the flooding, right? I believe it was last year, some parts before the drought here too. During the drought, the water was still high on the lake, right? Sturgeon, at least. So there is a number of things there. Yes, right there where that old telephone pole was, there's potentially something there. But to say that it hasn't, that upland and the expansion there isn't greater than what was there, you'd have a hard time for me to agree to that, right? There was a couple of things JJ had mentioned about a de minimis, right? There is de minimis for wetlands, Wetland Conservation Act wetlands. There is not a de minimis for public waters. There's a prohibition on the fill of upland, kind of like I had said before, unless it's for the benefit of the public, primarily roads. And we haven't extended that public benefit to creation of upland for fishing because a dock can be placed, right? And so this is where we're at in a hard spot, is we see that some portion of that fill and rock, right? I mean, if the rock was pulled back and the material was placed and the rock was placed as part of that edge, we wouldn't have an issue, right? And, or at least what our belief is here. We're struggling with, I'm struggling with, I'll be honest, 4 or 5 times having this conversation and then the fill stayed in, right? That's part of my struggle with this, is that I said, and it was me, to Vern, to the county engineer, to others, that fill cannot stay there. If you put that temporary road in, it needs to be removed. And it didn't get removed fully. I don't know if the contractor decided not to remove it, the township, or the engineer, how that all played out. But what's clear is there is more fill there than what was on the plan and what was approved. So that's part of where we're coming from, right? Repeated what that would be, and the difficulty is because of that same prohibition, and saying you could put a pier there. I don't know if it was DOT or who said you couldn't put a pier there for fishing, Vern, and maybe I misconstrued what you were saying there. But we are advocating for that shore fishing 100%. We think it is extremely important to provide those opportunities, myself included, to say that we should be doing that. As a board, I guess, are you guys, is the board saying you want to keep it in at this point? Or what's the conclusion? I mean, we have an active voluntary restoration order on it right now.
My position is yes. I don't understand why I get your point. I get your point. You're saying that, yes, this is the way some plan at some point said it should be. I'm looking at this from a very practical point of view and saying that this is good for the public, it's good for the safety, it's good on every level. And I think it's good for the lake to not have to dig it up again. I get your point. You said don't do it, it happened. I understand where you're coming from. From my point coming down there, seeing it, like I said, I spoke with a lady that was fishing there. It looks nice, it is nice, and I would really prefer to see it stay there. If there's some way we can work around this, that would be my position on this. Tony?
Well, Darren, I totally understand your point too. I mean, don't think we're dismissing it. You know, when we have a project like that, there's so many hands are involved, you know, and sometimes, you know, they don't talk to each other or communicate, whatever it is. But what I see, it is so minimal. You know, just like, it's not like, you know, we took like acres of land and filled it. And, you know, to just come in and take, you know, let's say 10 feet of it or 5 feet, whatever, you know, it may be. I think we're just gonna damage the, you know, the process, I mean, the water and everything that is involved right there. And besides, you know, just isn't even cost effective to save 5-10 feet. So we really appreciate it if you work with us, and let's just keep that. And in the future, you know, that would be a good lesson for all of us, that we need to have a, you know, communication open from the get-go.
Heidi?
What, if the direction of the board is to leave it in place, what's your next steps?
There's always a step for, so it's a voluntary restoration order
Right.
with a resource protection notice.
Hmm.
There's essentially two steps. Restoration order, formal restoration order for the DNR requiring it to be removal, and then there's a 30-day period to appeal. There is also a process in which you can apply for a permit to retain it. But why we didn't do that the first time is because it's unlikely to be approved, right? It's a prohibited placement. So I don't know how, you know, there's always an option to apply for a permit, get denied, and then it's required to be removed anyway through restoration order. This is the after the fact, right? So the fees are higher, all of that, and you may still not be approved for it. So those are options that are always going to be even in a restoration order, essentially, right? You can apply for a permit for it. Because it is, fill is an activity that is regulated in the public water. I, again, trying to recall who, I believe it was Dennis when we originally did that, but maybe it was somebody else then, and Vern for sure. The restoration order, that voluntary paperwork, that we thought was the best approach, that the Windemere was gonna do that. That's why we went with that RO, and it hasn't happened. So there's, again, two approaches. One is the DNR moves forward with restoration order after this conversation, or the township moves forward with a permit application for after the fact that could be, you know, significant cost to keep that among material. Those would generally be the two options. Well, those would be the two options.
Just like, what do you say significant cost, what are you looking at?
$1,200 times 2 plus the site visits for all the time and staff going down there. So it could be, you know, $2,400 probably to start off with, and then or if Kelly needs to do a site visit, which he may not need to be, but essentially it's a violation after the fact.
Right, but that doesn't even guarantee a grant of that
It does
permit.
not.
And so the reason why you recommended or said to remove it is because you were pretty sure pretty sure that we weren't gonna get the permit.
Correct. I mean, we can never, I cannot prejudge a permit
how
application,
it
right?
goes.
And so the idea is I can't say it's going to be denied, but it's very, very likely it would because of that prohibition for creation of upland below the ordinary high.
Who grants the permit?
The DNR would review it,
Which-
Kelly would review it, and I would review it, and ultimately a denial or approval a denial goes through multiple levels. I'll be honest, I would sign it, if however it came out, either approval or a denial would be signed by me.
Okay. And at this time, you would deny it?
No, I would not, my recommendation is to remove it, because I cannot predetermine if a permit will deny it or not. But
I
it is
see.
a likely a prohibit, and I apologize for that, but that is what I have to do, right? I can't prejudge an application. There is a lot of information here, right? An argument can be made on that, and this argument I've heard, right? I've seen this information, I've looked at the air photos before we did this with each of the individuals that I spoke to and said, it doesn't look like it's something that we could authorize for a fishing area or an extended parking area, right? And so we have had these conversations before. At this point, that's why that restoration order went out with Ryan Reed's name on it, voluntary restoration order.
And I have to say, in doing similar work, my day job, I appreciate your patience. And we don't have an option at this point but to remove the material. And that is the direction that I would head. And I appreciate your graciousness for saying it so many times, I guess.
So, you're talking about, we're talking about winter right now. So what's the practical point here? You're saying we have to do it the next 30 days?
No,
Okay.
we would like to, Kelly can, summertime, right? I mean, we're talking July 1st, right? By July
That'd
1st.
be nice.
Type of deal, right? You can't get in there. We don't want you to get in there right now. Too much work, you're gonna maybe mess the concrete up or the curbs, whatever it takes. That's what we would look to be some agreement on a reasonable timeline to do so.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
are we talking about the actual square footage that's there right now, or the amount of material that's on top of that square footage? Because from the photos, it doesn't look like we've extended out. But are we talking about shaving material off of the top?
It could be, right? I mean, the
Well,
idea.
that would be important to know if.
So I think this is, so generally, right, what we would say is that it needs to go back to the precondition, right? And there's some conversation that normally goes along with that, right? And there's gonna be some rock there as well. So the rock would need to be removed. You would scrape away the majority of the fill that was placed. You can often find the original bottom, right? You know what the fill looks like, you know what the lake bottom looked like. There's usually a difference, they're not the same. And then you scrape that material off, and then if you place your rock riprap again, we're not gonna have an issue.
But if that rock riprap is on square footage that was already there, that could stay then. Because it appears from the photos, and I'm new to this, but it appears from where the old pole was, that we didn't extend out from there. During the temporary road, we brought in fill to bring it up 3-4 feet. We've since removed a majority of that fill. So my understanding is what you're looking to is we have to scrape maybe another 6 inches off of there.
It may be in some areas, yeah. So oftentimes when we have restorations of the scale of this, right, you have somebody out there with an excavator, it's sloppy mess a lot of times, it's messy. They go in and they scrape down the material. Some of the new material is left there, right? It could be sand, gravel, with some black dirt. But you can normally tell where it is, where that was, because unless they placed it, and they may have placed a plastic barrier on that before they placed their road material, there's probably even grass down there still. You hit the grass line, right? Was the original, if they used a bulldozer and they pushed material in to create that temporary road, you can normally find that original bottom line fairly easily.
But your opinion right now, are we beyond that square footage wise, or is it just
Yes.
the material on top?
Yes.
But the photos don't appear that way because of the old pole, or yes or no?
Even if it's around the old pole, but the pole between there and the green shed. I mean, that's a very clear, to me, widening of it. And, yeah, I mean, even a small amount. So we get this complaint weekly. My neighbor filled, my neighbor excavated, this person did that. we get so many calls from the neighbors, right, about even the smallest impacts that are unlikely to be significantly environmentally impactful, right? The idea is that we have statute rule to move forward with that. And in this case, it is something that we've identified, we had a conversation with, we do think is a fairly easy restoration to do.
Can you, so one thing that, first of all, I gotta clarify, you didn't talk to me about this. I was not in my position when this got signed in November of '22. I didn't take a position till June of '23. So I was not in this conversation at all. Okay.
And I apologize if that's the case for me.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was, June 1, '23 is when I took this contract was, the plans were signed on November of '22. So well before my time. Had nothing to do with this. Scott, you said this wasn't our project, this was a county project. So we didn't do any of the work. We didn't hire the contractors. We didn't oversee this until the very end when the contractor went AWOL. Then the county agreed for us to take over. So this was not a Windemere project, this was a county project. And so what I'd like to know then is if we think there's an area, an amount, whether it be square footage, yardage, what is it? What is the amount? What's the violation? Because it doesn't say that on the RPN.
It wasn't intended to, right? The idea was a conversation to work to get this in resolution.
Well, of course, I brought that up with Mr. Condiff in May voluntarily. I said, hey, we have this. Can we go take a look at this? We waited all summer, and we never got to that point. And I invited him again, and I was denied again the time to go meet and visit the site with you, with our chair, with our zoning. We've tried multiple times, and I've got emails to show all that. So we've been working to try to have this conversation long ago, but for some odd reason, it didn't happen. Then all of a sudden in October, Kelly says, oh, by the way, I've been there. Here's the pictures, take care of this. And never informed us you were coming.
Brittany Stamper, actually, I contacted her about it because I was gonna stop up here at wherever her office is.
Sure, yeah. And I'm just saying, we as a planning commission, these as a board, me as a road manager.
And one thing seems very clear. Do you have a current administrator?
No.
Our conversations are often with the administrator because it gets confusing for the DNR to send out to the planning commission and the boards and a road authority. It is exceptionally common that that's the way the communication goes. So we apologize if our communication through an administrator was not being shared, right? And or vice versa. We can, at minimum, we will start to include the chair and the clerk in these conversations, right?
Yeah.
So I recall multiple emails to and from Brittany, right? And so there may be a zoning administrator email you could go back and look at as well. We can move beyond that, though. We're here today, again, to hopefully improve this relationship, communicate better, and move beyond these things.
So who do you actually, if this was a county project, is there a reason you're speaking to us?
So, I believe the permit is still in your name.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so, as I understand, it's very common for the county engineer's office to assist in these type of programs, particularly bridges that have a complication factor greater than culverts. And or a contractor can be held responsible if they indeed did the work. We did, I think, reach out to the contractor and the engineer.
Yep.
And they said they would be contacting the township over this time as well, right?
Right.
So we have tried to do so. It's our understanding that some direction or some action was because the township made that call.
Okay.
I don't want
fair
to speak
enough.
for the engineer or the contractor. They're
Sure.
not here to defend themselves.
Okay.
But that's a little bit.
Sure.
Would we be willing to talk to Aaron again with the county? Sure. But doing so probably with, Alan, Vern here to some extent to make sure that there's not any miscommunication. And maybe the county's interested in assisting in this.
Yeah, and I just, again, I wanted to make it clear that we voluntarily brought this up back in May with Kelly. Scott was there in the parking lot of our town hall and, offered to resolve, get working on this. And then, of course, the email was sent to meet there and get the conversation going, physically look at things together, so there is no miscommunication of who said what and where, why, and how, and that we were denied that at that point. It never happened. So here we are today, but yeah, you're right, let's move on, and let's figure it out.
Vern, so if, Kelly, you started in June? May? So, started in May, right?
Right.
He was brand new to the state of Minnesota, brand new to the DNR. So again, we apologize on that. And
That's no
I
problem.
don't believe that was ever our intention to ignore a conversation or what it came about.
Yeah.
So,
I recall the day, that day very well. I had made an appointment to meet with Scott to go over the ordinance, met in the parking lot, and then before we went to the garage, you stopped and introduced yourself and brought this project up to me, and I said, I know nothing about it, essentially, brand new.
Right.
Let me dig into it, and we'll go from there. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, but can I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
We're 2 hours into the meeting,
yeah.
and I, respectfully understand what you guys are asking, but the board should be acting the same way we would expect somebody else in our township. If somebody pulls a permit, they do something they're not supposed to do, Scott has to go to them to get them to change it. They either need to do it or they need to follow an appeals process and something else. So I think that based on, it sounds like there's a lot of miscommunication, if that part can get figured out, but still, if there's an appeals process that we need to follow, then that should be the next step. And that we should follow what we would expect our constituents to do. So-
Let's, I assume we can talk with the county on this, yeah?
Sure, yeah.
And deal with them and see just who's going to do what when. JJ?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could, remainder of my 3 minutes. Just a question. You talked about the public waters, it's public waters. So is an aquifer considered public waters also?
it's waters of the state.
Okay. What would damage the environment, whereas what happened out there on Sturgeon Island, or digging in an aquifer? In your opinion, I mean, you guys.
So, the difference between the two?
Well, the damage to the
Well, damage
environment.
digging into an aquifer happens all the time, right? That's what a construction of a well
A
is,
well,
right?
by a licensed person.
Yeah, correct.
Right, correctly sealed with a pump and used for
Yep.
potable water.
Yeah, and it's a riparian.
How about just excavation?
Down,
Yeah, just digging.
creation of a pond that bisects the aquifer, water table aquifer often, yes.
Well, I just wanted to, I could send this to the board, just so you guys know, they talk of things, they have to act on a complaint, and if somebody turns something, turns somebody in, you have to act on it, you have to go there. Your own Department of Natural Resources last year were out, and this is your activity, what your department does. First you go out with an oversized vehicle, you get it stuck, then you bring out a big cat, bury it, you impact 30 acres of land, not 30 feet, 30 acres. You then let this sit and leak oil into the aquifer, into the water out here. Where's the checks and balances? Where's the, you're his supervisor, right? The voters are my supervisors.
Yeah.
This went away within minutes. The director Strawman was sent these pictures, video, documentation. This was it just went away. Not a problem, not an impact when the DNR does it. Where's just the equal treatment of the taxpayer, the citizen? I can send these out to you. The DNR already has them.
And so, for everybody's
And then I'll
purposes,
just-
we're looking
I'll
at some photos
give up my time.
a truck and an excavator in a wetland, and clearly some damaging impacts to potentially a wetland, right? There's a little bit, JJ, on this is a temporary impact versus a permanent one, right? The road fill, so you can get to the island during construction, is a temporary impact. It's allowed, so you can retain access. Permanent, I don't know the final outcome of that one, and I can look a little bit more for you, JJ, but I assume that there was some understanding that the impact became temporary. Right, we often see logging activities in the woods. I hope nobody has had this, right, during our winters that are warmer now, that we struggled to get access for our logging equipment. And I've seen logging equipment, I've seen bulldozers during road or construction of overheads and pipelines in the same situation. And it's one of the things we do struggle with, is what do you and how do you manage these temporary impacts when they are? And are they permanent, do they need to be mitigated? But we will look, I can follow back with you, JJ, but I do understand what you're talking about. And this would be, we do consider it a temporary one. Is it one that's gonna break the back of Sturgeon Lake? Probably not, right? And so as a board, the decision can be made on your guys' next move.
All right. Well, thank you. We will be in contact with you and the county and proceed from here.
Yeah, and we'll get out of your guys' hair if that's all right. I do get a little bit of.
Absolutely, you are
And
free.
we will be in contact.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
again, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Darren, do you have a card with your email address on by chance? Can I get that? Thank you.
And Kelly, can I have one of your cards too?
I'll get one on the card.
Oh, you, I can get hold of you, don't worry about it.
I got your email.
Okay. You call me.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Email? It's not actually
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Is it coordinator, town director?
No,
or
it's
treasurer?
clerk
You
treasurer.
don't know what.
I think it'll be clerk treasurer. Boy, that's a little bit long one. All right. JJ or?
Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you. Yep.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Darren.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Public input, Dan Swanson?
Yeah, my name's Dan Swanson, and we have a cabin on Sand Lake on Chestnut Circle. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to put in a partial sidewalk along the cabin and then put in front of my deck that comes out from the cabin, I wanted to put in a 5 by 8 foot kind of a slab to kind of hold everything together from the bank that's going down. And Scott came when we were supposedly doing it. Do you need a permit for a sidewalk? I didn't see that in the new things that came out. If you needed a permit, but anyway, we were actually pouring the concrete, and Scott came and told us that we couldn't because we were on a berm. What is the classification for a berm? What I've read on the internet, a berm is something that's put up so that the water doesn't go down into the wrong places and stuff. Is what it holds back stuff. I don't think I'm on a berm.
You were on a bluff. You're on top of the bluff, sir. And what you were pouring was a 4-inch slab with no footings, no holdup.
We had rebar.
There was just a 4-inch slab going out with, the rebar. And that would have been a patio that would have required at least at minimum a grade and fill permit. And at that point, when I stopped and talked with your contractor, I asked him if there was a permit. One of them indicated there was a permit. I asked to see it. And another individual told me, no, we don't need a permit for this job, we're gonna do it. At that point, I did identify myself and did shut the project down. You were on top of a bluff. No setback at all.
What are we supposed to do to help our property?
There's engineering, there's shoreland contractors that can get a plan that would be approved.
But when it was said that I could do a retaining wall, you said no, that I absolutely could not do a retaining wall.
I said that it would have to be approved and engineered and approved.
And I have done a retaining wall on the one side.
On the one side, but that was also, I have found no permits for that one.
That was done years and years ago.
Exactly, okay. So to do something similar to that now would not be allowed because of the bluff. And
How is that protecting my property then?
there's ways to do it, sir, but you have to have an engineered, approved, and there's plenty of local contractors that can help you with that. But to pour the slab and the sidewalk as you were that day, I did put a stop to that because there was no permit at all on that project. At minimum.
And I had no idea that we had to get a permit for that.
At a-
I had no idea. But I mean, I don't mind getting permits.
No, at a minimum, there would have been at least a grade and fill, at minimum. And that's why that project was put on hold. And in the future, that is a bluff, and that would require an engineered plan on how to go about it.
Okay, and who would I contact for that?
There's,
Or what type, you know?
there's three I work with quite a bit. There's Ryan Proctor through Waltham, there's Jeff's Outdoor, and there's Chris Phillips that have all pretty much been my three contacts this summer with those sort of projects. They all have their expertise, they all have limited contractors or many employees, so that's who I'd start with.
So something could possibly be done.
Something could possibly be done, and I am not an expert on it, but I did know that there is a setback from the top of the bluff, and it's currently 30 feet.
I know, or you said 35, yeah, 35 feet.
30 to 50, and we were right at, so that was not allowed. That is why that project was put on hold, sir.
I lost $1,000 worth of concrete.
I understand that.
And so, okay, so if I can get names from you for those three, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And then I'll go, and then, okay, and then what is the process for a permit? To get a permit, then what would be the process?
One of those contractors would write up something that is actually legally allowed, and then you submit it, we go out, we'd meet at the property, walk through it, and then it's just an approval and a permit process if it does fall under our guidelines.
Okay, so no more retaining walls? Or could they approve retaining walls?
And we're in the new shoreland ordinance, so there are some new rules coming in, so I think we'll start working with a contractor and see what they come up with, and then see if that's something you're even willing to do, cost-wise, if that's something you want to take on, and then at that point, we could definitely review it.
Well, I mean, otherwise the landscaping is gonna erode, you know, and it's gonna keep going down. That's why I wanted to get some.
Would it be possible, because it's already over 2 hours, if you had further questions that you just talk with Scott?
I could do that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you very much, too. Thanks for listening to me. I will be in contact with you, that's fine.
All right, JJ, I believe you've had your time. Are you okay?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right, Ron, Uto?
Ron Buto, it's very interesting discussion on the bridge and things like that. It was very informal or informative. I guess in listening to it, we made a contract. We were supposed to take the dirt out. Now we're saying no, and we're talking about an attorney. And we violated the contract. Who authorized us not to take the dirt out when it was in the contract to take it out? I think that's something that should be looked at. I don't know how we figure it out, but just look at the contract. Cindy and Amy, this is maybe your last meetings here, taking notes. I want to thank you two. You had a hell of a problem, not a problem, but you had a real tough time getting everything taken care of, and I really think you both did a good job on that. Cindy in particular, you put up with a lot of crap from two members in our community, and I apologize for that. They were constantly nitpicking you, criticizing you at public meetings, which I think that if they had a problem, they should have maybe called you and said, we can work this out, instead of blowing it up at a public meeting like that. And I guess that's about it. You still owe me 16 seconds from last time I spoke.
Very good. Dan Benzie?
Good evening.
Hi.
I would like to talk about your finances a little bit tonight. And I am not nearly as educated in finances as Paul, so I'm not going to use big words, and I'm not going to try and confuse you with them. I'm a pretty simple-minded guy, and I'm just going to give you some practical things. Many people I talk to in the township recognize that our finances are in terrible shape. One number that Paul forgot to tell you in the numbers he presented tonight was the bottom line number. He started with your year-to-date budget compared to year-to-date spending. The number at the bottom is $322,000 over budget. $322,000 over the budget that you guys set for yourselves. That makes the taxpayers nervous about whatever we do moving forward. I've got just a couple of recommendations that in my mind, in my simple mind looking at these finances, and I have looked at a lot of budgets. One is to work with your new treasurer, put together a very simple, realistic budget with no levy increase and follow the budget. Pretty straightforward. Number two, don't hire a new coordinator when we don't have money for him. Number three, when the finances are in trouble, most organizations would have their elected officials or board review every expenditure before it happens, regardless of the size. 3 recommendations. What would our residents do with their home budgets? If they looked and their savings account was low, one thing they could do, and if their savings were low, if they recognize they're spending more than they're earning, they could all go to their boss and ask for a raise. Might happen. We could go and ask the residents for a raise. Might happen. But most likely they wouldn't go buy a new car. They would certainly not make plans to build a new house. And they wouldn't give their kids an open credit card or open checkbook. Township finances aren't much different. If our reserve fund is low, lower than you'd like it, if our expenses, which they are far exceeding our income, it's not the time to do unnecessary or excessive road projects. It's not the time to be planning a new community center. And it's certainly not the time to give open checkbooks to our employees. All those expenditures should come to you, our elected officials, to review. Coordinator, 6 months ago, we hired a coordinator to improve efficiencies and to eliminate 2 positions. 6 months later, she left without a job description, with assuming no duties from zoning that she was given in her job application, assuming no duties from road that she was given in the job applications. By the time she left, we had 3 employees doing the work of 1. Not sustainable. That's just not a sustainable model. If you decide, in spite of no money, to hire a coordinator, I would recommend day 1 a job description, day 1 assume all of zoning, day 1 assume all of road. Then you have enough for a half-time person and you'd be budget neutral. Summary, realistic budget, no levy increase, no coordinator position with no money, and start reviewing expenditures, we can get in better shape. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Next up was nominations for the Planning Commission. I had 4 people who had contacted me with interest in being on the Planning Commission. I would like to nominate to the board Dick Herzog and Amy Perrine.
Mr. Overland,
Yes.
who were the 4? And can I see their letters, please? Since this is a board decision.
I don't believe that that was a requirement to send letters. They were supposed to send an email to me, and that's what I have. 3 of them just said that they were interested, and Mr. Herzog gave you his. The other 2 were, I think a second here. Excuse me, I'm drawing a blank. Mark.
Do you have their emails?
Yes, I do. Mark Disterhaupt and, oh my goodness, I am sorry, I am forgetting here. Drawing a blank.
It was Paula.
Thank you. There you are. Marrier, is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was thinking Paula, and I thought, no, I'm sitting next to Paula.
I'm not volunteering again.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm very appreciative of everybody that put in their name to be considered. We had 4 names, we have 2 openings, and these were the 2 that, under the ordinance that we have, it is my duty to nominate, and that is what I'm doing at this time. So I'm nominating Dick Herzog and Amy Perrine. Do I have a motion to approve this?
Poston did say to send a letter in, Heidi, just like you said.
I
The
know,
notice in the paper said that a
Right.
letter and a CD was required, and Paula did send hers.
It's not important.
All right.
It is important.
It is important.
yeah, that's how we disqualify certain things if you're not following what the posting says, so. And again, with you nominating, is that something, and I forget, is that in the ordinance?
Yes.
That you're required to
It's
do
in
that,
the
Mr. Overland?
ordinance. Yes, it is in the ordinance.
So with that said, if, there wasn't, I see that Mr. Herzog did have a letter, he handed it to me before the meeting, so I appreciate that. So I sure hope that the other ones submitted a letter as well. And we would actually look at the letters as a board and read them, and then that would give us the opportunity to actually have a short discussion about why we felt, certain folks, maybe more suited than others or whatever. But even prior to this meeting, I had heard the decision was already made. So I guess that again negates what the purpose is of having a board decision when I haven't seen the letters. I don't know what the qualification and background is, and I sure don't understand why it is you're nominating the 2 that you're choosing to nominate. So if you want me to make a decision and a motion, that is impossible for me to do because I have 0 information.
Well, first of all, Mr. Herzog, who I nominated,
Yeah, I understand that.
has a letter here.
Yep.
And Amy, you've had the opportunity to know Amy for an entire year here.
Amy volunteered.
And she is here to ask any question that you would like.
The point is this.
So the rules get bent because Amy's been here for a while.
So again, it gets back
They
to.
were supposed to send a letter.
Hey, order. Heidi was speaking.
So Amy was the volunteer note taker. That doesn't give me any background regarding what her qualifications to be on any commission, planning commission or anything. I understand what her job is, but again, it doesn't give me qualifications. And again, I think it's important if you post something in the paper for 2 weeks as a requirement, and part of that is a letter. You're correct. Why is it that all of a sudden it's not important?
I did not say that it was not important. All right. At this point, we could take these one at a time. We have this here, and I'm nominating Dick. Do I have a motion to approve Dick Herzog for the Planning Commission?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I will second that. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Cronin, aye.
All right. Second.
Where are the other letters? I haven't seen Paula's or.
No, I haven't seen, let me see if it came up on this other email. All right. I can read it to you. Windemere Board, I would like to be considered for a volunteer position on the Windemere Township's Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission. We returned to Minnesota 1 year ago after retiring. Our current and future residence on Island Lake is on Island Lake. I would like the opportunity to be a part of the township that values community and nature. The shaping of our township for current and future residents impacts our quality of life. To promote that goal requires insight and input from individuals with a variety of life and work experiences, teamwork, and an open mind to consider all options. Please be advised that the current property of Claire Strandley at 94-655 Island Lake Road, Sturgeon Lake, is not currently homesteaded. He no longer resides at this address and still has ownership of the property. The transition of property will occur at the time of his death. The reason I mention this is because of a noted qualification as stated in Article 9, Planning Commission, page 86. A resident for purposes of this article shall mean a person who is not only a freeholder in the township, but also whose homestead is located in the township. We are registered voters as this is our permanent address. Now, let me see here. And this is from Amy. Hi, Alan. I am interested in being on the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment. As you know, I am a Windemere Township resident, have experience in the local area, and with my real estate experience, I believe I would be able to assist the township as a member on the committee. Thank you for your consideration on this appointment. Amy Perrine. Mark did not send a letter. I don't believe that he realized one was needed, and Mark has agreed, just as a side note, to act as the chair of the township steering, or town hall steering committee for the new town hall, if we would decide to proceed on that. So there are the two letters, and again, I would nominate, my nomination is for Amy Perrine. Do I have a motion to nominate Amy to the board?
So moved.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Cronin, aye.
All right, very good. Thank you. And thank you for agreeing to serve. Paula, thank you for your interest. There may be some more positions that will be opening up in the future. This rolls through, and I would certainly encourage you to show your interest at that time as well. So thank you. All right. Next we have the 2025 Township meeting schedule. We have a couple things, I believe, to discuss. Where are we going to hold our meetings in the future? Tony, when working on that as the building person, did you have anything for us on that for next year now?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Our meeting agreement is up at the end of this month with City of Moose Lake for this space. I think we should meet within our zip code. There's availability at the City of Sturgeon Lake on the second Thursday of the month. So I make a motion that we move our monthly board meeting to the City of Sturgeon Lake, and we start the meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning.
That's their city hall, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you were suggesting 9 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you're making that a motion, are you?
Yes, that was a motion.
All right. I will second that for discussion's sake. Discussion is open.
Yeah, I have a full-time job, Mr. Bakhtiari, and you know that, and so do you, Mr. Overland. And during the day, it's difficult for a lot of these people to come to as well, because a lot of these people have jobs as well. and you sent an email, you sent an email as a board member to the board, directly to the board.
I just wanted you to.
No, I'm gonna finish. And I'm gonna be very clear, you know better. That is a violation of open meeting laws, Mr. Bakhtiari. So-
No, it is
Well, it's
not.
Well, actually it
It
is,
is
and I
not.
heard
It is
that.
not.
It is not.
You know
And
better
anyways,
than
the-
anybody else with the violation. Let me explain this. I can send email to anybody, you just don't respond to it. That was informational thing, it wasn't decisional.
Well,
So-
it is, it's where you're making a decision that's gonna
I
affect the
was giving you
township.
information. And I said that the board decides, obviously this is not my decision. You
I
should
believe
read
that was quite clear.
That email again.
We have heard this. We cannot make decisions outside of a meeting.
So it says
We
the
can
only,
provide
this is
information.
from, again, and I know you don't respect Mr. Fensky, but the caution I have for you is that the email from one supervisor to the other two supervisors raises open meeting laws issues. So I'll just leave it at it. The primary beef is it's just, you know I have a full-time job and you want to make it during the day. And you know, I think, and I'm trying not to be jaded. I really am. I'm gonna try to keep positive here. But at every turn, you try to make things as difficult for me as possible. And this is yet another way for you to do that, Mr. Bakhtiari and Mr.
Okay,
Overland.
wait a minute.
You seconded the motion.
I seconded the motion for purposes of discussion. Okay?
The motion didn't even have to be made before we had a discussion, Mr. Overland, and
Okay.
you know that.
All right. You can,
Heidi,
That is exactly how I see it and how I feel. I've
Okay.
been pounded on for a long time.
hang on. First of all,
Mhm.
we don't know your job. We don't know that, I shouldn't say we. I don't know. Obviously, Tony doesn't know, which is why I was saying we. We don't know that maybe you would prefer a morning meeting. I realize you have a job, that doesn't mean that I don't know how your job operates.
During the day, how about
Okay.
that?
All right, well, that.
And it can start at
that's
6
the-
o'clock in the morning like today it does, and it can go till 11 o'clock at night sometimes.
Okay, so if the question would, if I hear that, the question would be, can you get 2 hours off during the day? Some people can. I don't know your job.
That would be very difficult on a regular basis for me to do on a regular basis. And it would require more than that. More than that, it would require me to take vacation, of which I have no desire. And 2 hours, we're going on almost 3.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. So what time would work for you?
This time, second Thursday of every month, just like I've scheduled it out
Can it
from
be
now.
earlier? Because many people do not like these late meetings. What time earlier can you go? Would
I
you
can
go
go
at 5?
Nope, I cannot go at 5 because I typically get done at 4:30 and I need a little bit of time to leave my, whatever I'm doing, get ready, and then come to the meeting. I could start at 6.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Ms. Cronin has been coming to a lot of special meeting, closed meeting. She made every single one of them during the day. And
What
and that-
closed
and that-
meeting were during the
excuse me,
day?
I'm speaking. There's, it's very difficult for me at night, and she just, let's just take a vote. There's all these people sitting over here, it shouldn't be my vote or anybody else's. Let's just take a vote, just see.
Well, it's not necessarily a vote, but we can take what I was stating, again, is that lots of meetings are during the day. The county commissioners meet during the day.
They're compensated they're compensated fairly highly, and a lot of them don't have jobs because of that.
Okay, my point is that there are other boards that meet during the day, most like city council. I think they meet, 4 in the afternoon, is it?
4 o'clock it starts
4
up.
o'clock. It's just the idea of trying to meet a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
So
6:30.
if you are done at 5:30 or 4:30, I think 5 o'clock would be a fair time. I realize it's only one day out of the month. but that would move us up at least an hour and a half.
Can I ask two questions?
out of this building?
Quiet, that's,
What? No.
being kicked No out of more. this
building? Is
that why
we're moving?
this is the board's meeting, not your meeting. Sit down.
Well, hang on.
sitting down.
Wait, I have two,
Quiet.
wait
Hold
a
on.
second. I have two questions.
Quiet.
Okay, one, if we decide to not be here and we're gonna be at the Sturgeon Lake place, what are their facilities like? I don't know that location as far as, are we gonna have audio? Can we do Zoom? Am I gonna have to bring in all the microphones and everything again? Do we know what it is?
We can do Zoom, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They have the internet there.
They have
We may-
internet and
we
everything
would
like
be
that?
able to,
Okay.
we would be able to do Zoom from there, so that
Okay.
would be.
And so the main reason for wanting to move then would be just so we're in our own, like, zip code? Is that-
We're supposed to have the meeting in our township.
Oh, no, township, okay.
And this is the closest we can do, just having it, in the same zip code.
Okay.
And it's kind of unfair that, let's say if, 7 of us want to meet in the morning and one person cannot, and we all have to accommodate the one person. Because I have a job too, and, you think that, it's, like we're all just sitting in duck and just waiting. for-
Mr. Bakhtiari, this is a board meeting, and I'm on the board.
You have
Okay,
a vote.
not 7 other
Okay.
people are on the board, there's 3 of us.
You have a vote. No, there's other people on this.
Let's
No,
have,
there's not, there's 3 people on the
You
board.
quiet.
Call
That's the
cops.
second time.
Call the cops. They're gonna laugh at you.
Well,
all right, just ignore it. All right.
I would suggest too, just whatever, thinking of changes for next year, whatever we do, I mean, my job, obviously I have a day job too. Mine's a little bit more flexible, but I could not say I'm gonna be out at 9 and then not know if it's gonna be an hour or 4 hours.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things, if it's gonna be a little bit earlier and something does have to change, we need to start having a strict time slot.
Yeah.
And either adjust the agenda or conversation to meet that.
Does 5 o'clock work for you?
I can make 5 o'clock work.
Okay. You would prefer an earlier meeting, or is this fine?
I would not like to be here this late every night, no, when we do that. Mine is different because I work from home. So, I can be more flexible, but I understand that if you have to, leave a specific place and get here, it's difficult.
well, Heidi works from home too.
All right, I would, I believe we need to accommodate our members as well as we can. So anyway, we have a motion on the floor. We need to vote. At this time, I would vote no on the original motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, all of us have to be sacrificed, so one person can.
I think that's the way we need to do this, to accommodate everybody on this board.
Mr. Bakhtiari, how do you know what everyone
Okay.
else feels?
Well, let's ask.
No, I'm asking, you seem to know. Have you already taken a poll?
No, I'm just saying, I said it's not my vote, it's let's ask everybody. Just like, what do you prefer? If you,
Okay,
everybody.
right now, the
prefers-
question
I'm
is,
sorry.
I've called the question on the vote. Overland, no.
Cronin, no.
Okay. Motion fails. All right. I will make a motion that we meet the second Thursday at Sturgeon Lake at 5 o'clock. Do I have a second?
Mr. Overland, is it possible to do 5:30? Just in case I'm away. And then I could agree to that. I could schedule things and make sure that I'm here at 5:30.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we meet the second Thursday at 5:30 at the Sturgeon Lake Town Hall.
All right, do I have a second? I will second that, I guess. I wish we could be at 5. I think it was something we could work towards. All right. Discussion? All right, all in,
I don't think this is democracy. Democracy is that, everybody will
well,
vote.
we're the 3.
Yeah, but other people,
No,
are,
they're not on
sacrificing
board.
too.
Yeah, hang on.
That's the last chance,
All the cops.
okay? You want,
Okay, Tony,
You
let's
totally
just
out
vote
of
and
line.
move on.
Yeah.
you better get
Please,
up and
yeah,
leave.
please try to just respect the board's conversation.
This is
here.
not your
Thank you.
meeting.
All right, Tony.
We know.
All right. Let's call the question. So the motion is to have the meeting at 5:30 on the second Thursday at the Sturgeon Lake. If something changes, this can always, it's up to the board to set the meeting, and that can be adjusted at another time. So Overland, aye.
Cronin, aye.
Bakhtiari, nay.
All right. Motion carries. Township audit. I think what we need to do at this time as well is discuss about the need for an external audit. We have received information from our treasurer. Paul, I'm going to let you address that, and then we can go into this other.
Well, in accord with your approval of contacting CPA firms for a bid on audits, I contacted several, and I gave you the names of the 3 that responded with interest in our township. 3 excellent possibilities. Abdo was the CPA firm that audited us with a complete audit in 2017, did the work in 2018. And I sent you an electronic copy of that audit. And so there's been 6 years without an audit, and each year you've been presenting unaudited financials to the town annual meeting. And here we are with treasurer having served 6.5 years or something, and then I've filled in the last 9 months, and now we're turning over to a new treasurer. So I think it was good work to do, and it's great to be in touch with 3 firms that are very capable. One gave us a proposal, first said no, we were going to pass on this.
And that was the, Abdu.
Yeah,
You're
that's-
talking, that's a acronym basically, correct?
Yeah, it's foreign names, they've changed their name to Abdu. And I sent you that proposal.
Yep.
And then Creative Planning, another CPA firm, has substantial municipal experience. I forwarded that information to you. Excellent firm, deep municipal experience, but said we're going to pass on this because if we were to do it, we would require substantial testing over the last 6 years. So we take off from your previous outside auditor, and that's just the way we do it. It costs you $50,000. It's not productive to propose. After you've been audited, you can contact us, and in the meantime, we'd be happy to give you advice and counsel on other areas related to township government. And then this firm had the other initials, I sent it to you, is in Virginia, Minnesota. Again, a lot of municipal experience, very interested in our township, not interested in doing a complete audit this time. Same reason, it's been too long. But if you wanted us to do agreed upon procedures, which I've written to you and explained that, they could do that sometime in January, early February. I don't think this is the time for agreed upon procedures or a skinny audit. I think this is time when I consider looking at the 2017 audit and the management letter, you have a lot of work that began to be addressed years ago, but it faded off and wasn't addressed. Now that we're having significant changes with this new clerk treasurer position, there's new priorities, new issues related to internal control, and I think you can grasp a lot of benefit from having the full audit this year, so
And that is because they will, with their audit, will send the management letter, which will describe what these controls need to be,
Well,
correct?
yeah, well, to be correct, you'd have to say that the full audit wouldn't include a management letter unless it was necessary. In other
Yeah,
words, if
okay,
the audit was a
correct.
total clean audit signed and all our policies were up to snuff and they had no recommendations in terms of new policies or procedures, there wouldn't be a management letter. But I would anticipate you'd have a significant management letter, and I would wholly recommend that you take up all the issues that they list, whatever that is.
Right. All right. Other consideration is we still, I believe, have an outstanding issue with the state auditor. This would certainly show good faith on our part to have an audit done by a professional outside auditing firm. Give us a clean set of books, will give us likely very good recommendations on how we proceed forward so that we do things in a proper way. So, do we have a motion, would we have a motion to hire this Abdu for our external audit?
I'll make that motion.
All right, do we have a second? We'll second that. Discussion.
So, Mr. Horgan, so we can change, is this gonna be a yearly audit or is this gonna be periodic?
Well, it's entirely up to you, except there is state mandated audit requirements, which would be something less than a full audit like you'd go through at this time. But state mandated audit, I did send you some information on that too. That's required because you have a single clerk treasurer is one position instead of two. I don't think, most people would agree that an audit is a bad investment or something that shouldn't be done just because you have two sets of books, theoretically. You have an outside audit that goes way beyond the basic financial audit. And that should be done periodically. But a financial audit is what's required, state mandated, if you have a clerk treasurer. That's a lot less money. I mean, the amount of money, I don't know, it could be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for just a financial audit. That's what you'll be required next year. After you've done everything that's suggested on the management letter, you might decide to do another one, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 years from now. It's up to the board, whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, again, yes, a full audit, like you say, the one audit is required. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is the amount for the audit? And what were the amounts for the others? One was $50,000, if I'm correct. It's not listed here on your email. But the other one that we're considering, is that the 18.5?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the proposal. I assume you read the proposal, Heidi.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. It's in the proposal, 18.5.
I
Agreed
saw
upon
your email.
procedures
Yes, that's
could be
correct.
$4,000 to $8,000. And that's wide open, depends on what you agreed upon. That'd be a minimal audit. Wouldn't get much out of it.
Yeah.
And then,
I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify,
good.
that's all.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Cronin, aye.
All right, so with that, I had a discussion with the Township Association today about what we would need to do this year for an audit, a board audit. A board audit is required, but with an outside audit, all we have to do is basically review the audit, the outside audit that was done. And so, I don't know that I think the idea perhaps of a pre-audit was to make sure that things are in order for Paula to take over. And with this other audit coming in, I think that probably should take it from there. Cindy, any comments or anything?
Well, if you look at the sheets that I have given you for the clerk's books.
Okay,
Nothing has been balancing since January because I'm not getting the information I keep asking for. So it's kind of a waste of time.
all right, well, very good. That can all be, we'll all get that hopefully straightened out here now with this audit that we are having done. Amendment to short-term rental. You have that in our packet. It's just this one, correct? One amendment? All right. So have you all had a chance to read it? Tony, you see it? Heidi, have you had a chance to see it yet?
Yep.
All right. So a motion would be in order to approve this amendment to the short-term rental ordinance.
So moved.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. All in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Bakhtiari, aye.
Cronin, aye.
All right. Supervisor.
What is the next step for the short-term rental? Now that this is approved and it looks like it's finalized, what are we doing with it? What's the next step for implementing it?
We're putting together the package, which will be the permit application and all of the related information to the permit. Whatever the stipulations are, they have to check all the boxes and provide us the information. And then it can be acted on in accordance with the short-term ordinance, short-term rental ordinance. And that's coming before the Planning Commission in January. And that meeting is going to be on the Tuesday before the board meeting.
Okay, so there'd be potential that we could move on that in January then.
I hope so.
Very good. Heidi, any other questions?
Not yet.
All right. Board supervisor, other?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to give the board a heads up that I'm not satisfied with the board's direction on septic spread in the farmland. It will have a long-term effect that has no remedy, such as PFAS, in the future. I will come up with a proposal for our board to consider for a more long-term solution rather than a quick Band-Aid remedy.
Thank you. Anything else you have under other?
No.
All right, Heidi, anything?
I have questions about the office. Who's using the office at this time? And how often are we using that office?
All right, well, good question.
Mm-hmm.
I use the office.
I'm asking you, is it something that you think we still need to keep? Because the idea of having an office was that we were going to have somebody from zoning that was going to be sitting in that office having regular office hours, and that has simply not happened. So I'm wondering what the value is of having something that's fairly expensive every month, because we could talk about expenditures and Mr. Horgan's, all about how, excessive our being here and doing the board work is. So what I'm wondering is if for an office, is that something that's needed? Do we really need that?
Well, right now we have files stored there.
No, we can move the files.
Okay, would you like them at your place?
I'll take them at my place upstairs. Yeah, I'll take
Okay.
them. Sure.
Well, I don't think that's where we want to have them. They should be stored in a good, safe place. And
Access to it.
right now, we have a contract that was signed, I believe, for 1 year.
When is the contract up?
I believe in June.
So we're storing files at an office for $400 a month?
There's a coffee machine.
First of all, let's...
Oh, there's a coffee machine.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First of all, we have many discussions that need to happen. Scott, do you use the office now and then?
Now and then I do go in and review and store files there.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah, I've used the office from time to time, and I'm not sure if it's fair to ask clerk treasurer, what files she wants to keep at home and which ones she want to keep there, but I've put a fire file in the office, and I stored the valuable documents I don't want to give them a list in public, but they're in a fire file locked under lock and key. So, and it's as far as the office being useful, I don't think there's any way to predict that we were going to lose our coordinator, but the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment find it a very good place to meet, even though we have to pay $50 a month for the meeting room.
Which is above and beyond the cost of the rental space.
That's of course correct.
Paula, do you have any predictions at this time, how you see? Will you be utilizing the office at all, do you think?
I don't know. If it's mainly for storage, I have an office at home that I can store things if we need to. And, you know, from the treasury standpoint and everything else. I do think, though, that whatever we do, it sounds like there are certain files that need to be available to everybody. So putting those at a person's house, I think, would be difficult. So what other, like, alternatives are there that might be less expensive, whether it's a, you know, storage unit or something else, but it also has to be something that isn't gonna get wet and damp and everything else, so you know, honestly, you know, until we have someplace else to put them, I just don't know where else we would keep things like that. We also have to just figure out, sorry guys, but all the equipment.
We have several things, and I don't know if we want to continue on this tonight. What we do have is, we have an agreement, a contract that was signed through the year. Again, as Paul said, we had no, it was not in our foresight to see that that Brittany would be resigning from her position, which was unfortunate. We don't know where our future is going on this. This is something that we certainly should talk about. The idea of a coordinator, and it may not be in the role that Brittany had at this point, but and we're going to see where this audit goes. There might be certain things that come up from the audit as far as how mail is handled. I'm not sure what all. And so to try to make a snap judgment now that we need to get rid of the office, I don't think that's very solid and prudent thinking. Certainly it is something we can consider as we go forward, but not necessarily at this point. There is good reason for the coordinator position. And one we had, it was expensive. And that, I think, got beyond what we foresaw, could foresee. But that doesn't mean that the whole idea of the coordinator is lost entirely. So, again, maybe we hire somebody in. I don't know what you're going to need or want for a deputy. Maybe we hire somebody that can serve as your deputy and work a few hours a week, can handle phone calls, direct people to whether it's Scott or us as a board or whoever. So I think there's some discussions we had to make. I don't know if you want to do that now, though, considering the length of this meeting. So, anything else, Heidi?
No.
Anything on this burn trailer? I heard that in there. Do we know anything more than we did last month?
No,
Okay,
just leave it at that.
fair enough. All right, road update.
This will be quick. Paula, if you had a moment to load that up there. Yeah, thank you. All right, we're going to breeze through it. Everyone can read what's up there, so next slide, please. Basically, what we had going on here is we did our final grading. It certainly wasn't ideal, whether it was uncooperative, but it is what it is. And we talked about that last month. So we also got our delivery of our signposts that we purchased earlier this year, and that was donated, that transportation by Equipment Transport. So about a $750 donation from them folks or whatever. So I'll reach out to them and thank them. So next one here, please. I don't know if you can scroll over on this. Oh, I guess you can see it over there. Pretty much every road got done. couple little short jogs that didn't need it, and everything is listed here, everything we did going all the way back to February, grading in February of this year. So click a couple forward, please. There you go. That's it. We're gonna focus on getting those signs done next year at this point, and you know, possibly some the box culverts if that gets let out for bid or not. So anyways, those are the guys that have chosen to work with us, and again, Equipment Transport donated their time. A couple things here. I want to discuss the protocol on road issues. So you know, I just want to make it clear. You know, if somebody reaches out to a supervisor and there's an issue, have them contact myself or Tony, and just immediately forward the information on, because going back and forth accusing people of not wanting to solve problems is not the prudent way to do it, Heidi. So it's not what we're about here. So I solve problems, I take care of business, and I'll continue to do that. So send them my way immediately. And so again, that's how we contract. All the information that you've seen here and every other report going back to June is on our website, June of '23, by the way. That's our phone number, and that is our email address. So
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, zoning update?
Basically, year end, I think we're gonna end up with 102 permits, finalizing the year end reports for the county. Basically, the other thing is, working forward, we're gonna have, I'm gonna have a streamlined permit process. Things are gonna be required before we even start on it, because a lot of this stuff has fallen to the wayside over the last few years. The other thing is, I would like to have some discussion coming up on like a chain of command and who gets contacted, when, how. We've seen it tonight with the DNR. They've had contact with a lot of different people. I still get people that say, well, I've talked to so-and-so and so-and-so. Dennis still gets contacted quite a bit, and they'll come to me and say, well, Dennis said I could do this. Well, the fact of the matter is, I'm the zoning administrator, like it or not. You are my supervisor, Mr. Overland. And I think, or any of the board, it's got to come through and filter down to the people that need to know. The other issue we have is the county and the state are on totally opposite ends of different issues. The county will say yay, state will say nay. So I think we have to work forward to communicating with them. Wetlands being one of them, fill being one of them. The county obviously had no issue with leaving that project at the bridge the way it was. The state does. So I think we need to work on that going forward in '25. It'll take a lot of headache away. The other thing is, when I did reach out to the state, I was pretty much told that we're not here to do your job. And that was on another bluff issue that is still pending, and we're looking forward to some finalization answers from the attorneys on that. So that's basically what I have for the month. So.
All right, planning commission update?
Well,
Oh, sorry.
one thing, we all got a letter from Tom Albrecht in regards to Omer and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about?
That's a project that was, they brought in tires to backfill a property.
Who's they?
That's the question. Tire Aggregate is a company owned. It was hauled in by Omar's. It was hauled in for the previous owner. He was allegedly his own contractor. He did the project to a certain point, so basically he sold a finished foundation with no house on it. The new couple bought it, and when they did some work, they found buried tires. Up to, according to Omar's, maybe 4,000 cubic feet of tires.
Any permit was issued?
I am not finding any permit, and right now I think the issue is going to be a legal action between the current owner and the previous owner. I have still yet to this day been able to find out any owner for Tire Aggregate. There is no contact. Their last known address was the Shamrock dump site in Cloquet, And according to the Shamrock people, they have never had an office there.
If
So
you'd like the contact name, I can certainly give it to you.
please get it to me then.
Mhm. Sure. Andy
But-
Orr.
But that's kind of where we're at on that one. I think they're, in speaking with Mr. Albrecht, I think he wants us to, it's gonna end up being the new property owner's issue to correct that problem and then legally go after the last one if there is an issue there.
So the remedy is, you know, I mean, do we have to do anything in regards to
I
that?
think the remedy is gonna be those tires have to be removed. At least on the one side of the house. We might be able to get an offset on the side furthest away from the lake. I'm still digging into that.
What was the purpose of using tires instead of any other material?
The tires are cheap, they give, they filter through. Originally, it was designed for, say, Duluth area with clay on the old foundations. They'll give they don't push in on older foundations. That was the design back when Shimleski started the company. And since then, there's been many legal arguments about their use and where they can be used, and no longer can be used, at least in the shoreland areas. And they can be engineered, I believe, to be used in some, but not within that shoreland area.
That was a big deal back when I was on the board before. They were actually going out and promoting tires, chopped up tires to fill in your low areas on your land. And so I don't know. What do you do if it was permissible then and it became impermissible after? I don't know.
It hasn't changed. The beneficial use determination for tire aggregate hasn't changed. Hasn't changed since the beneficial use rules came into play.
Which was when?
At least 15, 20 years.
Yeah, well, this could be easily be prior to that, though.
I don't know how many people were shredding tires prior to that.
Oh, I know there were, because that was back, I was more
I
than
just said I
20,
don't
it
know.
was more than 20 years ago that
Yeah,
I
I
was
just-
on.
And I have found some information that they can only be used for certain roadways now, so it's definitely.
It has to be, it has to be an engineered spec.
Yeah.
It has to be above the water line. It can't be within the saturated zone. And you're right, it has to be for an engineered reason. And unless it's a substitute for one-to-one, it can be a one-to-one substitute for aggregate. Again, that's in the above the saturated zone. So the beneficial rules are very clear and you can look them up for tire.
Yeah, I don't doubt that now, but what I'm getting at is if this was done prior to those rules.
No, it wasn't.
No,
It was done
This was done probably within the last 3
3
years.
years.
Oh, my, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then,
This
yeah,
is
no.
a new problem.
Okay, very good. All right, planning commission, anything to update on the planning commission?
No, we're good.
All right. Fire district,
No reports.
no report, all right. I think we can review the claims.
Okay, I'm gonna pass out first the claims manifest to each of you. And I'll make a request that you review the invoices and claims in the packet, which I will provide. And I was admonished that I should collect something for doing this work for you for the last 9 months. So I made out a claim personally, but I'm uncomfortable with putting on a claim manifest, running the payroll, and then giving you the check. So I'm saying if you'd like to pay my claim next month, then you can approve it next month, and it'll be submitted. So I'll give it to Paula for next month. But I won't call you have that request. Okay, and here's the, where do you want to start? Oh, that's my,
This is on top of 674.
Okay, if I could have your attention one more minute. Your policy is this, from last July, that you signed this document. So when I was audited by the state auditor, they asked for signed copies of the claims manifest. And in some cases, before July, you didn't sign it. There was no signature. We didn't ask for a signature. But after July.
We're having difficulty hearing, Paul. There's noise in the background.
Mr. Horgan, we do sign the claims individually. We either initial them or sign them, so I'm not
That's
understanding.
not, what you should understand is you signed a policy in July. If you want to change the policy, do that next month on make an order. But you signed a policy that says, this is a claims manifest, so that when someone wants to research a claim, they go to the file and they find this document and it's signed. And all the claims are on one page. You don't have to look at 30 pieces of paper, or every year, 360 pieces of paper. There's also an electronic file. So if you'd sign it before you sign the checks, then I would have that for the file. If you want to change the policy next month, obviously, not up to me.
Just a side note, when Paula and I went to training down at MAT, I showed the claims manifest to the MAT trainer that trains us in all the proper ways of doing this, and I asked her if she would sign it, and she looked at it and she said no. Because it is not the correct information. If it had the correct information on it, Mr. Horgan, I would sign it, but it does not.
I have no idea why I'm going through this conversation with Cindy. I have no idea. We've gone through this like 4 or 5 months. I went to training too. I've been to many short courses. Can I talk for a minute here?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I am done with this nonsense, okay? This is a form that provides you easy access to information to the claims. I've even added a column to show the purpose of it, but all the account numbers are on there. So it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea what she's talking about.
And what you're saying is true. It's the manifest, it's got all the claims on here, but you're not giving the correct information for the correct total.
What's the correct information you're talking about?
If you would go back and look at the way Ron gave it to us back in January and February, that's all I'm asking for.
Okay.
But you won't talk to Ron.
Okay, here's what we're doing.
We need to move on.
We're done
It's
with
almost
this,
10.
we can move on. I have talked to Ron, he said, this is precisely complete. End of story.
All right, this is all going to change
Whatever.
shortly anyway.
There should be claims packet.
Oh, they got it,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Cindy, is your claim correct? You have 748 miles of,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
you have 748 miles of
Charles?
traveling?
For the elections, yes.
Like you went
That's over 3 months. To go to training, back and forth to training.
3 months or 4 months?
3. It should be 3 months.
This is,
I just put a claim in for my elections expenses one time, so I wouldn't have to do it each month.
so you do carry a mileage log?
I kept track of where it went.
Can you forward that to the board, please?
Sure, as soon as Vern gives us all his information that he never gave the board.
He's not charging anything.
He has in the past.
So you're saying that?
I'll do it as soon as everybody else does the same thing.
You charge 748 miles and you're just saying that you're not gonna do it?
No,
because
I
somebody
have
else does
it, I have it, but why are you picking on, why
I'm
are
not
you,
picking on it. 700
why are you singling out mine when you didn't have any?
Because I haven't seen 700 miles. That's going to Iowa and back.
I think what she's trying to say is that before, it was determined for Mr. Anderson to become quote salaried, whatever that means. He would turn in a claim sheet that just showed total hours with no work. It didn't indicate what he was doing for the work. So I think that's what her perspective is, Mr. Bakhtiari. She's saying that she traveled this distance for elections, but she's not giving you every single location that she traveled and drove to with this exact miles. And it's similar to what she's saying Mr. Anderson did, is he just put a total amount of hours that we paid him for, but he didn't indicate what he did for those hours. That's what she's saying, Mr. Bakhtiari. Anyways,
I'll give it to you, whatever. I'm doing nothing now, so what the hell? Do it all, Paul, just do it all.
Would you like to sign the checks?
Nope.
Oh, you don't want to sign the checks?
I'm not gonna sign the checks, I've had it. You don't need my signature anyway.
Well,
are the claims coming?
Yeah, are you done?
Please.
What have you?
I'm going through exactly what you're doing. I'm done.
Okay, you've done this part,
Yeah.
correct?
Just to make sure it's right side up.
There we go.
Thank you. Policies, 109 miles.
It's 90 miles to Pine City.
I'll get you.
One time.
All right, so our claims we have, do we have direct deposit 1727 through 1730 plus 1724, is that correct? No, excuse me, that's not correct. Anyway, we have November claims, I don't know, Amy, you can get the specifics afterwards if you need. The total claims then are, Paul, where was that amount here?
The total claims are
Is there a reason?
$31,030.58.
Okay,
How about
so, but we don't have to include the para withholding
No,
in that
no.
figure. All right, so.
Doesn't matter.
The November claims are in the amount of $31,030.58. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mr.
paying the
Overland,
claims?
can I please review the claims before we approve them?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't had an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Was there any mail? Either of you?
No, there was no mail.
Next month, do we need to talk about, or mention or anything like that? Currently, you can have three signatures on the checks.
What is this in here for?
What's that?
Good. Okay, Paul, you also had the signature
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that you've done.
Okay, so the resolution should be to authorize the same signers, 3 board
Where's the
members,
claim sheet? Okay.
and
I got you.
clerk
Okay.
treasurer, Paul Angstrom,
Okay.
beginning January 6th. So I put the effective date on the resolution here that I have. It says, stay with me a second. It's effective January 6th.
Okay, and so moving forward, will there only be 2 signatures on the check?
No, it's 3.
And
Who else?
so who,
Another, just any other person.
Oh,
any other?
Oh, you
board
want to
member?
change it to 2 signatures? You want to be just the chairman and the clerk treasurer? Or
No,
go
we
three?
can continue with
Go
3. I
three.
was
It
just
could
wondering
be,
who.
it could be any 2 of the 3 of you supervisors and
Okay,
Paul.
very good.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
and if Paul is absent, it could be the 3 of you supervisors.
Okay.
Yeah. And now I'm going to turn this over to you, Paul,
Okay.
because you'll get the signatures of Alan, Heidi, Tony, and yourself. Get their signatures tonight, and then I can work with you to fill this out.
Okay.
And then you'll be signing this on January 6th.
Okay,
So you can hold on till January 6th. And on January 6th, you'll sign here,
okay.
knowing that you've seen these signatures. And that way, then it's adjusted, and then we go to
Okay.
and then have them sign the signature cards too.
Okay.
And there's 3 signature cards for Heidi, Alan, Tony, and yourself.
Okay.
Because you have 3 accounts of the bank.
Ah, okay. So you gotta agree to- Okay.
So
And the US Bank one will be followed tonight. So it's First National Bank and then US Bank.
all right.
I've, never mind.
Heidi, you had a question?
No, not yet. Thank you.
Let's do these signatures then while we're waiting.
All right.
Give you
Do you have
that.
copies of these checks for me?
Well, I don't do that until they're all signed. Any questions? But I can do that.
All 3 of those cards.
I try not to do it. Sorry if you don't like to.
Mhm.
But we only have about 2 weeks to go.
The top card.
Did you want it? I gave you a copy.
Oh, it's, oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was signed 3 times for each 3.
No, no, that would be okay.
I would just like copies of the checks so that I know that they agree with the claims.
You know how some people they look at things because. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. No problem. I have no problem with that. Not an issue.
All right, thank you very much.
This invoice for cabin cutters, what is this for, knowing what? What property?
It says on the, oh.
It says township property, Mr.
Yeah,
Orton.
the only township property that has a
What
lawn is
cabin
the
covers
town hall,
will be?
military road.
Well, we
Isn't it
mow the
on the
right of way
invoice?
as well, Mr. Orton, so
Is it
that's
on
what
the
I was
invoice?
questioning.
Hang on, Tony should be able to answer
It
this.
says mowing of
That's the
township
town hall.
property.
That's the town hall area.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
That's what it was. Thank you.
These 2.
Okay. Do you need those back? Sorry, it's not.
Sugar just dropped.
Do I have a signed manifest?
No.
Yeah, wait for the motion.
Do you have the information?
Oh,
Did you have
yeah, I got it all.
You got it?
Yep, I got it all, thank you.
Oh, yes.
All
that's-
right.
Of course. Yes, thank you.
Are you done, Heidi, with the claims?
Yes.
All right, so, we have claims this month in the amount of $31,030.58. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Is there a second? I will second that. All in favor, say aye. Overland, aye.
Back to you, aye.
Coney, aye. Yep.
Oh, good, thank you.
Signature.
Signature.
I'll give you the claim from the checks back. Make that.
And-
Addresses, I'll give you.
Pass that
Down
on
there,
down.
addresses, I don't get-
Is Heidi going to sign?
You wish to sign that?
Nope. No, I don't fit that.
Tell me why.
Because I don't think it's a form that I should be signing, to be honest with you. I sign the claims individually.
And I've never signed
You guys really have a problem here. You really do have a problem.
We sure do.
And I take offense to
Hey,
that
no, no,
because
no, I'm not
why
talking
is
to you.
it we have the
I
problem
am
and you
not
don't have
talking
the
to
problem?
you.
Well,
I
I'm
am-
talking to
It's
you.
not gonna be, because I'm the problem. And that's okay.
Okay, we won't send out the checks then. You either sign this, you have a policy to sign it, you either sign it
It's
or the
not
checks
law,
go.
it's a policy. You can send them the checks, you'll be fine.
No, I won't.
And that's up to you.
Technically.
Heidi,
it's not even-
what is the difficulty with signing? What, we
Because in the
passed, we
in the
passed
past-
this as a board.
Yeah, but the point is this, is that I didn't realize that there's some claims on here that we shouldn't be signing because they weren't, the invoices themselves weren't, they weren't correct. They didn't detail the work that was done. Like there was an invoice from the general, I can't remember the contractor's name that built the structure for the covered bridge. And all it said was his name and then 11,000, whatever it was. It didn't detail the work that he did. There was an invoice from Mr. Goebel for cleaning out the pit. It never detailed what he did for that invoice. So it has to be, you have to, on an invoice, actually state what you're paying for. And that's the reason why, so if Mr. Horgan doesn't want to send out the checks because I don't sign this piece of paper, that's a policy, that's on him, not me, it's not law. I would not break the law, it's not in statute or rule or anything, or it's not.
Tell you what.
So that's it.
Tell you what, Heidi, when we do this, whose responsibility is it to authenticate the claims? You
I
know
did
that?
authenticate him because I signed it and approved
No,
it.
whose responsibility is it to authenticate the claims?
We authenticated them by approving them tonight.
No, after 14 years,
That's
you
the
must,
end,
no,
Mr.
no,
Horgan.
that's not the end. It's the clerk's responsibility. Next month, it'll be Paula's responsibility to authenticate the claims.
Okay, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'm exhausted too. If you want to sign the checks, I need somebody to sign them. Go ahead, sign them.
It's not my job.
It's not your.
No, I'm not the chair, and you know that it's,
No,
and I
the
don't
chair
feel
has
like,
to, I need 3 signatures.
I don't know, well then, there's 2 others here. Have you, have
Not just so
them do that,
childish.
'cause this is.
Who's ridiculous?
The situation is, it's not me, and I know that, you know, it's,
It's
I'll get
idiotic.
the blame, and that's okay.
It's not
That's
blame.
really
I'm not
okay.
blaming anything. I said, you pass a policy, you vote for it, and then you won't follow it. You want to sign this, you guys?
Absolutely, Mr. Horgan.
I'm certainly happy that my last
Especially
year.
in light of what you had found out at your
None of these
information
happened
meeting.
before.
What information?
Or the training. That's very interesting to know.
Well, it's not true. It's
Do
absolutely
you think
not
they would
true.
lie to Cindy?
Well, absolutely, because she wouldn't understand what they said.
I don't understand. That's great.
I was at training too last spring. I took this form right out of the training session, the short course, right smack out of it.
Paula, can you just back me up here, or not? I don't care. I don't care, never mind. I don't know what I'm doing according to Paul, so who gives a crap?
You're a wonderful bookkeeper.
No.
But pass whatever policies you want to. Thank you for your service. Every job is easy until you have it, Ronnie. Every job is easy until you have the job. You ought to
do
try
it right,
one.
it's easy.
It's easy until you have it.
It won't complicate.
Might be a little question. And this is what we cater to, you know?
You know, it worked. Mr. Horgan, it worked.
It didn't work.
Oh, it did, for a long time.
Yeah, isn't that something? That's amazing.
All right. All right. With no mail, I believe. All right, I believe we've covered enough tonight, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor, aye. Overland, aye.
Back, yeah, yeah.
Cronin, aye.